Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Network on Saturday, June 16th, 2018. This is episode 1497. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Quip, the first subscription electric toothbrush accepted by the American Dental Association. Visit getquip.com/twit and get your first refill pack free when you purchase any Quip electric toothbrush. And by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully so you can be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/techguy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. It's time to talk computers and the internet and home theater. We could talk about virtual reality, augmented reality. We could talk about smartphones, smartwatches, anything with a chip in it. I'm here to talk about it. Help you with your problems, answer your questions, hear your woes. I'm like a computer therapist. 8888 Ask Leo. Get on the couch. And it's funny. People call and everybody's miserable when they call me. I don't know. Very rarely. Almost always it's my computer won't work. It's okay. It's okay. I'm here. It's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. 888-827-5536, the toll-free number from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. If you're outside that area, you could still call 888-827-5536, but you'll have to do it with Skype out or something like that. And it should still be free because it's a toll-free number. 8888 Ask Leo. We have a website. If you're listening, you don't have to write anything down. You know, you're hearing the show and you're saying, oh, wait, let me... No, you don't have to worry about it. It's all on the website, techguylabs.com, and that's free. There's no sign-up. I don't charge you. There's no subscription. You're welcome to, we divide the page up into shows. This is 1,497. So there's a few shows there. Gosh, we're going to have 1,500 in a couple of weeks. Wow. Then each show is divided up into hours because it's 3 hours per show, and then each hour divided up into calls and segments. So you can just go right to that point. You can also leave comments, and that's the kind of the exception to the sign-up thing. And that's not because I want your money. We don't collect your email or anything like that. It's just that to avoid spammers, we require you to log in with your Google or Twitter or Facebook account. And that way, that just slows this. It's a speed bump for spammers. It's turning out to be more than a speed bump for spammers. The European General Data Protection Regulation. You've probably heard about GDPR a few times. It went into effect 3 weeks ago now. And it's killing, I love this, it's killing email marketing. So here's why. Did you get a few, I know you knew about GDPR happening because in your email, you probably got a few emails saying our privacy policy has changed, like 1,000 from everything you've ever done business with. You didn't pay any attention to those. You hit delete every time you saw one, right? Yeah, fine, I don't care. Like I care. I know you're required to do that, so I don't care. Maybe you read a few of them. A lot of them came from, and you may not have recognized this, companies that have been sending you newsletters. I put that in air quotes. Newsletters. It's really spam, but they call them newsletters. And the GDPR has a requirement. You can't send newsletters or spam to people who haven't bought something from you. So you can send emails to customers who have purchased a product from you in the past. That's okay. But you can't send emails to people without their explicit permission otherwise. So you know how you go to a site and they say 20% off if you just give us your email address, or for whatever reason they got your email address. There's even pages that will get your email address without you explicitly giving them that. There's it's a flaw in the way the web works, that even if you just type something into a form, they can collect it before you hit. So maybe you're thinking, I should buy this fantastic Mario display that dispenses candy. I should get. No, I don't. I decided not to. But if you filled out the form, they got it. and they can send you email, except if you're in the European Union. Then they have to send you an email saying, we would like to send you email, but we need your explicit permission. You need to say yes. So those emails you got 3 weeks ago, a lot of them were companies you didn't really want email from saying, please say yes, please, please, we'd like to send you emails. You could save so much money if you just said yes. And I bet you just threw them out, right? Well, that means you're not going to get any more email from those companies. Now you say, but I don't live in the European Union. Yes, that's true. And technically they could treat you differently. But most companies don't, because it's a lot of work to distinguish between people who live in the EU and people who live in somewhere else. So in a lot of cases, they're just doing it for everybody. So I'll be curious, but I suspect you're going to see a lot less. It's not spam, they call it bacon. Staying with the pork product theme, they call it bacon, which is commercial email that you signed up for or you somehow indicated an interest in, but you don't really want. It just fills your mailbox. I get a lot of bacon. I bet you do too. I have a little trick, actually. I use it. Works quite well. I have a filter. Have you ever used filters in your email? This is a good thing to learn about. Any email program will let you do this. Gmail does, Yahoo Mail, any web-based mail. Just look for filters or folders or some sort. Rules, sometimes they call them message rules. I have a message rule that if the word unsubscribe is anywhere in the body of the message, usually they put it way down, a little tiny print at the very bottom. If you don't want to get this, unsubscribe here. If I see the word, or my filter sees the word unsubscribe in any message, it puts it all in a bin called newsletters. It's just quite a large bin now. There's probably tens of thousands of emails. I haven't looked at it lately because I don't ever look at it. It's in a bin somewhere. And if the reason you don't throw it out, you could delete it, really, if you wanted to. You could have that filter say, just delete it. But I keep them there in case, I want to go through it or looking for a coupon or whatever. It's still searchable and all that. So there's some good news coming down the pipe from the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. Here's some bad news that came down the pipe. AT&T and Time Warner merged. A judge ruled it was okay to merge on Monday. They merged by Friday. They said, okay, good. So that means AT&T owns HBO and CNN. And, Comcast owns NBC. So, it's what you're seeing here, and it depends on your point of view. What you're seeing here is companies that make delivery mechanisms. We call them pipes. Comcast is a pipe, right? It's AT&T is a pipe. They deliver content, are snapping up content companies. The last time this happened to this scale was when the movie companies owned movie theaters. You don't remember this. I don't remember it. It was in the 20s and 30s. But they owned the movie theaters. They completely controlled not only the creation of the content, but the distribution. It's very good if you're the movie company to control all that. It eliminates competition, always a good thing. Means you have complete control over what people can see. It got broken up because it was so predatory. You couldn't, if you weren't one of the big movie companies, you couldn't make a movie because all the theaters were owned by the movie companies. You'd never get in. We realized then it's a bad idea for the companies that do distribution to own the content. We haven't learned that lesson, or maybe it's been forgotten. The judge seemed very unclear on exactly the business that AT&T is in versus the business Time Warner is in. He said, and it may be that just the laws of the land require this, that because they're different businesses, distribution and content, the government can't reasonably try to stop that merger. But what it doesn't recognize now is the way he said, well, Netflix isn't the same, right, as HBO. In order for HBO to compete with Netflix, AT&T has to own Time Warner and own HBO. But because Netflix, it doesn't need, because it has its own distribution. No, wrong. It doesn't. It has to go through internet service providers like AT&T. And what the judge didn't really understand, I think, is that what this means, I think, and we'll see in the fall when you get a new phone. If you get a new phone from AT&T, it's going to come preloaded with HBO and CNN and Turner and all the AT&T properties. And this is the thing that's bad. It seems good. It won't cost you against your bandwidth if you watch HBO. It will if you watch Netflix. And that's the problem. And that's what's I think going to be an issue. So we'll watch that going forward. But I think that it is a reasonable thing to be a little afraid of, and we've seen what can happen if the content providers are owned by the distribution providers. In the long run, that's bad for anybody who wants to create the next Netflix, the next HBO, the next podcast network. And I guess that's one of the reasons I have a little dog in this on having a podcast network of my own. It worries me a little bit. If AT&T comes to me and said, well, it would be nice if you could reach your audience, but for that, we will have to have some money. That would be bad. Bad for AT&T customers and bad for me. So I just raised that as something you should be aware of. We'll see what happens. Now that net neutrality is no longer a reality, these two things come together in I think a very bad way. All right, let's take a little break. Come back. We're going to take your calls in just a second. 8888 Ask Leo. Kim Schaffer's here. She's answering the calls. She's getting you ready. Give her a ring. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Summertime. Hey, summertime Schaffer. Kim Schaffer in the house. She is our...
Next week?
What's next week?
Isn't the summer equinox?
Oh, technically, yeah. I noticed.
Like the
Did you notice?
Or something?
The days are getting longer. Did you notice? Did you notice?
Oh, well, yeah. It's light till almost 9 o'clock now.
I know. I love it.
Sometimes it's 5. Sometimes it's 9. It happens to be about 9 this
Wish
year.
we could persuade the sun just to do that from now on. I guess if you live on the equator, you could.
We could do something about that time change.
We could just move. Yeah, that I agree with. Which would you keep? Daylight saving time, which we're in right now, or standard time? I'd keep saving time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so it wouldn't stay light as late. It would stay light till like 7 instead of 8 or 8 instead of 9. But that would be fine. Fine with me.
Just stay. I don't like the
Farmers
switch.
don't
The
even like
switch
the time
hurts.
change. Yeah, just stay with one thing. Pick one thing and stay there.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've been answering the phone.
I have, and last year we got a call, starting things a little differently this time. Not really a question, but Ryan from Long Beach called last year, and he's kind of a rock star, and I think you inspired him to write a blog, and he wants to follow up with you how that's gone for him.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Is kind of a rock star?
I think he's like a major rock star. I don't know.
Oh, Kim's blushing. He must be big.
No, I don't. I haven't heard of any of the bands he listed off, but I'm sure some people have.
Well, let's say hi. Hi, Ryan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thanks, Kim. Are you a rock and roll legend?
Well, we sold millions of albums. So,
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Stuff in the world, but it's pretty good.
That's nice. So tell me, where's this blog? Where's this blog you're doing?
Well, I actually am writing a column for a magazine called Control Forever. It's sort of a pop culture, lifestyle, technology, current events.
Yeah, I like it.
Publication. It's online. They're doing TV, podcasts. They have the online magazine, all sorts of cool stuff. It's sort of what I would call an analog would be Vice magazine or Vice TV.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah, remember zines? Are you old enough to remember zines, Ryan?
Yes.
That was all the rage, right, in the punk era, and they were often mimeographed or, they put together and distributed by hand. But zines really gave way to blogs. Boing Boing was an early zine that turned into a blog, and why not? Who needs a mimeograph machine when you've got the World Wide Web?
Absolutely. Well, you inspired me after we talked. You kept me on for quite a while. I actually didn't expect to get into such a conversation with you. I had a great time.
Good.
But I'm the guy that crowdfunded. I came from this world of multi-platinum sales on a major label, and now found myself in an indie situation, completely independent situation.
Yeah.
And we crowdfund everything that we do on so far Indiegogo. Our current campaign was number 1, and when I called, we were number 3 most trending, and it just went to number 6. So I don't know if we've heard that, but
yeah, never talk to Leo. Your Indiegogo will tank. I'm sorry about that. I didn't do that on
No,
purpose.
no.
So have you looked
No,
at
I'm kidding, I'm
Patreon
kidding.
also, which is another platform for artists to
I have.
ongoing subscriptions, that kind of thing?
I have. I find that the excitement of the campaign and the sort of the limited time frame, the scarcity concept, really for us, and actually having charts that you can show up on for an indie band. We can't show up on Billboard like I used to. But
Wait a minute. Billboard doesn't count
Logo,
indie sales because they only count record store sales. Is that right? Is that the...
Yeah, well, not only that, I mean, when you're an independent band, you don't have the ability to really market to radio. You can't get your singles on radio. You can't. There's a bunch of stuff you can't do.
Yeah, I think there was an issue with for people who sell digitally that they couldn't get on Billboard. Then they created a digital chart, but that's not the same as the Hot 100, which is the chart the radio stations look at. Yeah, it's
Yep.
this is a lot of what you're seeing nowadays is these old dying technologies kind of fading away and not giving up control, right? No, we're not going to give.
Yep.
That's what you're seeing, by the way, with AT&T buying Time Warner. We don't want to give up control.
Yep, I was listening, and there was a lot of interesting analogs with what's going on with basically everything.
So, what can I do to help you this time? I'm thrilled that you're doing so well. That's fantastic.
Well, I actually, you told me to write a blog about how we were doing what we're doing.
Oh, good.
And this is our fifth #1 crowdfunding campaign.
Nice.
We're going on a world tour this year.
Wow.
With a bunch of big bands. We've completely gone from multi-platinum to broke to a completely cash flowing business. And I wrote an article about it, and it's going to be an ongoing article. And it was inspired by you. You told me to do this, but I took it a little bit further, as I tend to do. And it's basically available right now. If people want to, I just want to empower my fellow musicians and kind of
tell me where it is.
Be super. It's on Control Forever, and the article is called "Crowd Surfing Your Way Out of Hell" Part 1.
And Control Forever is controlforever.com. Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Ryan, I'm
so,
just thrilled to talk to you again. I'm really glad that you're succeeding doing this. This has got to be the way of the future. But as you know, the old guys, the record companies and the magazines, they're holding on with a death grip. So.
Absolutely. And I'm going to write about a little bit of a contrarian view. I know your view on Facebook. I've been listening. Obviously, I'm a huge fan, and I listen all the time. I get all sorts of ideas from you. I have a contrarian view regarding Facebook and how much it's helped small businesses like mine, and how without obviously we're.
I don't disagree with that at all. I just think it's risky to put all your eggs in the Facebook basket.
Oh, sure.
But use them. They're using you, so go ahead and use them as much as you can. Hey, Ryan, I have to run, but I'm so thrilled to hear from you, and I'm glad. Controlforever.com, and you can read Ryan's article, and then go buy his records. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Ryan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. That's awesome, Ryan. It's Ryan Shuck, right?
Thank you.
Is it Ryan
Yeah,
Shuck?
Yeah.
The chat room is on to you, man. They already figured it. They already figured out who it is. They got your page. They got your Wikipedia.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Tell them to go check out our latest campaign. It's going. We did $20,000 the first day. It's just unbelievable.
What's the name of it?
It's called Harmonic Disruptor. So if you go to Indiegogo, the little catchphrase would be JKHD. Just that's it, JKHD.
JKHD, I see it.
Yep, if you search for it,
I see it. There you go.
And so I write this article about how we put all of this together and how we keep it exciting and break the rules every time and the principles that go into.
So this is
what we're doing.
This is a little different than a lot of bands are doing it. I think Indiegogo is a really interesting idea. You prefer it to Patreon then?
I do. And by the way, they take the smallest percentage.
That's important. Patreon takes a lot.
Yep. I mean, if you make $50,000, that's number one. To be honest, that's not that much money.
Yeah.
And if someone takes 15 or 20% of it, that's crushing.
Yeah.
I mean, that should be your cost of goods right there.
Yep.
So it's a big deal. I think we're going to pay 4% on this.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good.
The cool thing, And the cool thing is it's essentially, a contest type of thing. We can use this to promote. We don't have any other platform to really get people excited about what we're doing. So using, advertising on Facebook and announcing and doing a build up and using Instagram and Twitter and all the different kind of really inexpensive advertising platforms. And then we launch something like this and we do an exciting commercial and create a bunch of cool merch. And this time the story isn't even a story. It's just a bunch of kind of, obviously kind of punk art.
That's interesting.
Really fun
that's really
and exciting.
Yeah. And you're building. The most important thing is you're building a fan base, because ultimately the deal is you got to have recurring fans, returning fans.
Absolutely, you've got to have super fans, and these people are. I mean, at the end of the day, after selling millions of albums in my other projects, I don't have the ability to get to those millions of people. I really have the ability to get to the 1,000 people.
That's who you need.
I'm in touch with.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they spend about $200 a person.
Yeah.
A year.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Pretty huge.
No, I think that's absolutely the key. It's the super fans. I look at bands like Humphreys McGee, and how they really support super fans, because they know that's what's powering the whole thing. And then of course they'll spread the word. It doesn't end with those 1,000. If your stuff is good, they'll tell others and it'll grow. Yeah.
Yeah, when we go on tour this summer, I mean, we're going to play for tens, 20s, maybe 100,000 people, depending on how big some of the bigger shows are. And those are all relevant fans, of course. But we really, really, really focus on that 1,000 fans. It's that I actually link that Kevin Kelly article in my the 1,000 fans.
Oh, good. Yes, right.
Fans.
Right. He's the guy who came up with that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I tell people read that over and over and over. And when you hit, really doing it great is if you actually get 2,000 true fans. That turns into actual, real, reoccurring money, and you can really tour. You can keep your project funded, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, we've done. I'm excited and I'm blown away by what we've been able to do. It's just so fun, and it's all because of the fans. And our relationship with the fans is so direct now and so close. I don't even call them fans anymore.
That's right. They're your friends. Yeah. I think that's really true in any mass medium. It's in radio they call them P1, the P1 group. That's really important.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I think Kevin was the guy who realized that all you really need is 1,000.
That's right.
That's a magic number. Yeah. Because then that's the critical mass, I think. Yeah. Hey, Ryan, it's great. I got to run, but it's great to talk to you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for the inspiration. Take care.
All right. Take care, Ryan. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bump. It's time for Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guru. Scott is editor at AVS Forum, joins us every week to help us get better audio and video into our lives. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Leo.
Better AV.
Better AV.
Through AV.
Exactly so.
Yeah.
Exactly so.
What do you got for us? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to you. As you probably know, the World Cup has just started in Russia.
Oh, man. Spain, Portugal yesterday. I was in an airport, restaurant trying to watch on a little screen, but what an exciting game. Yeah. Are you into the football?
Not in the least.
You don't like sport ball of any form.
Well, I've started to come around to baseball. My wife and I now have a 4th of July tradition where we go to the Dodger game on the 4th.
That's really fun. You have a Dodger dog. You sit in the bleachers. You get sunburned. Yeah, no, I think that's how they get you. That's the entry, the gateway drug. Yeah.
But soccer, or as it's known in the rest of the world, football. That's the number one sport in the world. The number
bigger than the
followed
Super Bowl, right?
Oh, bigger than anything.
How many people will watch the World Cup? Do you know?
Oh, probably 1 billion.
Wow.
There are 4 billion people who follow soccer in the world. And according to this a website I found called World Atlas that has all sorts of stats about the world, soccer is by far the most followed sport event in the world.
In 2014, that's only every 4 years, which makes it even more exciting. In 2014, 3.2 billion unique people watched one or more games, and the final, which is the big one, you said it right, 1 billion people.
Yep, exactly right.
1 billion people.
So to help those of us who are AV enthusiasts and sports fans, I just posted an article about how to watch the World Cup in 4K HDR.
Oh, that's what I want. Where? How?
Right there on ABS Forum, right at the top of the homepage.
Nice. Can we watch it on broadcast? No.
Well, actually, you can watch it in a number of ways. This is the important thing here, in my opinion. 4K HDR, high dynamic range.
Nobody broadcasts that, right?
Well, no, that's not true.
Oh.
It has gone from being a test or an experiment to being not quite mainstream yet. But if you have Dish satellite or DirecTV satellite, you can get it.
Boy, that'd be a reason to go out and get the Dish. How about cable?
Right.
Can anybody on cable watch?
Yes. If you are a Comcast subscriber with what they call Xfinity service, which is their high-end service. I mean, all these things are high-end.
It's not the service. It's the hardware. You have to have the X1 box.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Which I don't have. I have TiVos because I got rid of my... I thought the X1 was horrible. Just horrible.
Oh, well, it may be.
It might be better now, but it's the only way.
Comcast guy,
yeah, you can watch an HDR.
That way you can get 4K HDR World Cup.
And wait a minute, though. Not live.
Not in the case of Comcast. That's correct.
1 day delay, which means who wants it? Are you going to not? Are you? Watching any sporting event on delay is tough because of Twitter and Facebook and everybody's telling you the score. There's no way to keep it mystery about it.
Yep, absolutely so. There's another smaller cable company called Layer 3 TV, which is owned by T-Mobile, or they own T-Mobile. I forget which is which, but they're associated with T-Mobile. And they have service in L.A., Denver, Dallas, Chicago, Washington, D.C., a few places. And, they are offering it on their cable box as well. And another company, even smaller, called Altice. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Altice, no.
Yeah, Altice. They operate a service called Optimum in the New York tri-state area, and they are carrying it there as well. So if you have cable, if you have Dish or DirecTV, and Comcast, if you want to watch it on a day delay,
in Spanish, by the way.
In Spanish. That's the other thing. So Comcast,
Comcast.
For those of us who don't speak Spanish, it's not really
well,
useful.
but it's actually more fun to watch the World Cup. The Spanish broadcasters, when there's a goal, they go crazy.
Yes.
It's so much fun. Go! You've heard it before. It's
now there's a couple ways to get it online as well.
Oh, that's what I want. All right.
Okay, so unfortunately, it's tied to hardware.
Yeah, of course it is.
There's a very large Chinese company called Hisense.
Ooh.
That makes TVs, and they are a major sponsor of the World Cup. So they have an exclusive agreement with Fox, which is the network carrying the World Cup. You can install an app on some of their TVs and watch in 4K HDR on a Hisense TV.
Okay.
That's one way to do it. That's the only way to do it that I know.
Complete sidebar, but we should mention that although the Trump administration has announced $50 billion in tariffs on Chinese goods, they explicitly did not tariff TVs.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Really?
Yeah. Somebody's got some lobbying clout. So,
seriously.
So Hisense, TCL.
Yep.
Those
are the two. Those are the two big Chinese brands. Yeah.
Yeah. Will not apparently see tariffs.
Yeah. Well, good for us who buy TVs.
Yeah.
Especially since those are like the bargain brands now.
You almost be worth buying a Hisense TV just to watch the World Cup.
Yeah. Well, if you're really into the World Cup.
How cheap are they?
They're pretty cheap. The H9E Plus 55-incher, I think, is $700.
And that's HDR?
Yeah.
Almost.
65
if you're really a fan of the football, that would almost be worth it, right?
Almost.
Yeah.
Almost. Exactly right.
Yeah. And that's live? That's not... That's
live.
Yeah.
That's live.
Who wants on... Comcast, what is wrong with you?
Really?
And you have to have the special X1 HDR box, too. You can't just... Yeah.
Yep, exactly right. Now, all of those solutions are in the U.S. only.
Around the world, I bet you can watch anywhere, right?
Well, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
BBC in the UK is offering streaming from their what's called their iPlayer app.
But you have to be in the UK to get
you have to be in the UK, or I suppose, just between you and me, if you have a VPN and that you can set it to say I'm in the UK.
No guarantee, though. They seem to be blocking VPNs of late. So.
Really?
Just to be
Okay.
aware.
Well, that may be.
The reasoning behind that is that if you're in the UK, you pay a license fee for your TV, so you're paying for it. So you should be able to get it, but they don't want to.
Now, the weird thing is BBC is still calling this a trial run, and they're only making it available to, they don't specify exactly, but quote unquote, tens of thousands of viewers. So unless you get in right at the beginning.
Small trial.
Exactly. Yeah. It's bigger than they have been, but it's relatively small. Yes.
Yeah.
And so the exact devices that are compatible are a little questionable as well. We're not 100% sure about that, but it is one way to do it in the UK. There's also, believe it or not, there's a Turkish satellite provider that if you have a movable antenna and you can point it in a certain direction, you can get the Turkish feed of the World Cup in 4K. We're not sure if it's HDR.
How do you say goal in Turkish?
Yeah, really, I don't know.
So,
anyway.
and remember, this is only when we're talking about 4K high dynamic range. You can watch it. I was watching on I think it was Fox Sports stream.
Fox is carrying.
So you can watch it. It'll be in 720p or whatever it is at Fox Sports.
Whatever it is,
1080i.
yeah, exactly.
If you want, but see, I think. Well, I don't know. Have you seen it
HDR,
in 4K?
Yeah,
HDR
looks phenomenal.
Yeah, I bet it does.
Really looks great. Yeah.
Scott Wilkinson is the editor at the AVS Forum. Now, his article is complete. It covers, I know we talked about it a lot, but it's all there, avsforum.com. How to watch the FIFA World Cup in HDR 4K. And if you've got it, of course, you don't mention, but you need a TV that'll do this too.
I do mention that, of course.
Scott Wilkinson, avsforum.com. Thanks so much. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More of your calls coming up. How do you say goal in Turkish?
I don't know. Somebody in the chat room will know. Yeah, of course. So, yes, I just want to make sure everybody knows I do say it. One of the first things I say in this article is the first thing you need is a 4K TV with HDR capabilities. So, yes, of course you need that. Mike B says, no one who has Altice knows it as Altice. They just say Optimum, formerly Cablevision. And that's true. That's true. Optimum. Although they have another one. They have another service in other parts of the country now. It has a different name. This company, Altice USA, is the company or the parent company. And one of their services is called Optimum. And the other one is called something else I forget. And trying to reach them is nearly impossible. I mean, they have no contact us information on their webpage. The only way you can contact them is if you want to buy their service. So Suddenlink, yes, thank you, Mike B. That's correct. That's the other service that they offer. And their Altice One, which is the name of the set-top box, is available. That's what they use. And anybody who has an Altice One can get this stream. But it's only in the Optimum area, which is the tri-state New York area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, I think. And Suddenlink is in other parts of the country. And I think that my understanding is that the Altice One has just started to come into the Suddenlink areas. So there you go. It looks like goal in Turkish is gol, G-O-L. Thank you, Cool Breeze. And yes, Mike B., you've mentioned Altice in the chat room to me before. You must live in the tri-state area and have that service, do you? I'd be curious to know how it works. Mike B. says Altice One is Optimum only. Okay. Web 9690, which brand and model of TV is best for viewing football, really soccer? It doesn't matter particularly the brand, as long as it has 4K or UHD resolution and the capability of reproducing high dynamic range, HDR. And for the World Cup, you would need to be able to decode either HDR10 or HLG. Now, most of the providers that I mentioned are using HDR10. BBC uses HLG because that's what they developed, and it's really meant more for broadcasting. HDR10 is meant more for packaged content, so I'm a little curious how they're getting HDR10 to be broadcast live. They can do it, of course. I don't think it's as easy. So all you need is a TV with 4K and HLG and HDR10 support, which virtually all TVs, modern HDR-capable TVs, do. So that's really all you need. And a high refresh rate, Knox Harrington, is important, but it depends on the frame rate that they're sending it to you at. In England, on BBC, they're sending it at 50 frames per second. In the U.S., it's probably still 30.
Can you stay for the top, my friend?
You bet.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Back to the phones we go. And on line one, Neil in Phoenix, Arizona. Hi, Neil.
Hello, Leo. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for hanging on.
Thanks for taking the call.
Yes, sir.
We've talked before, and I have just in our conversation, watching all the shows, I have a plethora of your recommendations and products over the years.
Well, bless you, my friend. Bless you. Thank you. I hope you're enjoying them all. If there's something you hate, don't tell me. I don't want to know. No, you can tell me.
No, don't hate any of them, actually.
Oh, good. Okay.
But one of the products that I'm calling on today is my Asus AC3200 router, I believe it is.
Yeah.
And it's working fine. I'm talking with it right now, as a matter of fact, because I have the Wi-Fi calling.
I was going to say, this sounds very good. Yeah, the quality is excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. So I'm using the router, and it's working perfectly well. And I've had it since I started recommending those, I should say.
Yeah.
But now there's all this talk about this VPN filter malware.
Yeah.
And so I'm unclear now if I need to replace this router because it's maybe vulnerable, because I don't see mine on their list, but they say millions of routers are out there vulnerable, but Asus only lists maybe half a dozen, of which this is not among them. But if I need a new router, that's fine, or do I need something else?
You do not. And let's talk a little bit about this. So VPN Filter, we believe, not me personally, but the people who discovered it and have done the research on it, was created, and this is what makes it so deadly, by a nation state, in this case Russia, and by a Russia hacking group called Fancy Bear. They've had many names, but that's one of the names they go by. The reason that's an issue, and first of all, you can tell when malware is created by a nation state because it's so darn good. When hackers create stuff, they're usually a little sloppier, and they're definitely not so careful. In this case, VPN Filter has different clauses for every possible router. If you're an Asus AC3200, do this. It is so carefully programmed that it's clearly done by an actor with unlimited resources, effectively unlimited resources. And that's why the lists that we've seen so far of affected routers are incomplete. You just don't know if your router is affected, and it's probably safe to assume that the Russians are continuing to expand its reach. Remember the FBI saying a couple of weeks ago, "Oh, everybody reboot your routers, you'll be fine. We found the command and control center." It was a couple of images on PhotoBucket and then a site called toknowall.com. "We've got those. Just reboot, you'll be fine." Wrong. Of course it wasn't that easy. So our security guy, Steve Gibson, noted at that time, well, yeah, except that there's still, even if you reboot the router, they've modified the firmware of the router as well, so that there's a little code that's beaconing. We don't know why it's beaconing, but beaconing it's saying, "Hey, I'm here, hey." We don't know why it's beaconing, but you can presume the reason a router would continue to do that is to say, "Come back and hack me. Come back and hack me." So we're seeing these routers that you rebooted hacked again. The only real solution to this, and you can do this with your AC3200, which, by the way, I don't think is on the list, but it's prudent for everybody to just assume that your router is going to be on the list. there's two things to look for, and I'll tell you, the first thing you can do on any router is go out and reinstall the current firmware. That will erase the firmware that's on there, which could presumably have the fancy bear code, and replace it with good code. That's the immediate fix. It'll stop beaconing. It won't re-download the malware. It won't get reinfected. Now, the good thing about ASUS is they keep their software up to date. One of the reasons I recommended this router is it's based on open source router software called DDWRT, which ASUS uses, they modify, but you can put third-party DDWRT compatible firmware on it if you're feeling like ASUS is not keeping it up to date, but they are. In fact, I bet you, if you check, you've got patches since this came out. Most of the companies, and this is the second point, most important point, if you buy a router that gets updated by the company on a regular basis and the company is paying attention, you'll be fixed because they have to fix the flaw that allowed VPN Filter in the first place. So check to see if there's an update on it. Even if there isn't, reload the current most recent version, and you're probably all right.
I have the current firmware, but how would you update it again?
You pretend, yeah. Some routers you can't. Some routers you just say download and install this, and I think you can on the ASUS. You just download that firmware and reinstall it, as if you're getting new firmware, except you're not. And then keep an eye out and see when ASUS updates it. And it's probably the case that if a router isn't getting updated, that it's time to get a new router. But I think this 3200 is recent enough that you're probably all right.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you taking my call.
Yeah, I'm glad you called. This is really a big issue. It's going to, this is just the beginning. We are, you can now say we're in a hot war, a hot cyber war with the Russians. And others as well, but the Russians are the most active, Chinese to some degree as well. And both countries, and North Korea has their own hacking group as well. All of these countries, the thing is, that's the point, is it's not like building a nuclear weapon. You get 20 good hackers, you're done. You just give them resources, let them get to work, and you can create tools. Now, why, you might ask, well, why would Russia be doing this? Why is Russia building a network and at last count of 500,000 routers infected with VPN Filter? Why would they want that? Well, it's not to steal your credit card number. Don't worry. It's not about you. It's to steal your router and your bandwidth and to use it for their purposes. And we don't know what their purposes are, but you need only look at what Russia has done in Ukraine to see what they're thinking about. Russians were able to take the Ukraine grid down for some hours. They turned it back on. It was a test a couple of years ago. They have been able to do all sorts of things to Ukraine. Ukraine has become Russia's. They don't remember. They think the Ukraine should be in Russia, a part of Russian territory. Remember, the Russians invaded the Crimea. The reason it's often called the Ukraine was the Ukrainian region of Russia for many years. So the Russian government kind of considers the Ukraine to be, a prodigal son, and they don't mind attacking it. It's a good place to test your hackers. And by the way, Ukraine has some very talented, skilled tech people there. So it's a good place to kind of see what they can do in defense. But that's not the end game. The end game is, I believe, and I think our intelligence community believes, I know they believe, the end game is attacking us. And you don't have to think too hard to imagine what it would be like if Russia took our electric grid down for a few days. What chaos that would cause. And don't you think we're not doing the same? We're absolutely. In fact, we're kind of doing it explicitly and in public. We've created a cyber warfare unit. And they're working on these kinds of attacks. We know because some of them have leaked out from the NSA and elsewhere. So the next few years, that's what we're going to see, is warfare. And unfortunately, you and I and our routers and our Internet of Things devices of all kinds, anything connected to the Internet, are targets, not end-game targets, targets for eventual attacks against the full government. So something we need to really, I think, be aware of, and it would be a very important thing for you to do is to start getting used to updating firmware. Only buy devices with updatable firmware. That's super important. If the firmware can't be updated, then that device is a sitting duck. And you want a company that's going to continue on a regular basis to update the firmware. That's really important. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. Happy. It's okay. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's not a problem. So what if they're attacking us? Big deal. Happy, happy, happy. Happy, happy, joy, joy. All right, Scott. Let me. Yeah, no problem.
What's your thought on the Apple AirPort Extreme?
Oh, they've already abandoned that.
I know, but that's what I have.
Yeah. So they've abandoned it.
So I should get something else. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to right away. They're still doing firmware updates, but they have announced that they're no longer manufacturing it, and I'm sure the updates will stop sooner than later. Most people should get a new router every few years, unfortunately. But you're all right for now. I'll tell you when you can't get it.
Okay. Yeah, I've had it for a while.
As long as Apple continues, as long as you keep seeing updates. It's, for instance, it's safe from a VPN filter because it's up to date. Yeah, but at some point you're going to want to get a new one. Yeah, get an Eero.
Eero.
Yeah, EERO. That's what we use. They're really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will make a note of that.
Yeah, eventually you should get an Eero. And they're mesh. They're the new mesh stuff, but they push out firmware updates weekly almost.
EERO. Okay.
EERO. Yeah. All yours.
Thank you. So yeah, let's see. Twisted Mister was asking about ultra short throw projectors, which are pretty amazing, actually. They're projectors, like a regular projector, except you put them like less than a foot from the wall, and they shoot upwards at a steep angle and fill the screen. It's like having a giant flat screen TV. It's not as bright, obviously, although they tend to be pretty bright because they are mostly intended to be watched like a TV with some light in the room. So you need an ambient light rejecting screen. Also, you need a screen that is designed to get the projector light coming in from a very steep angle. And if you have the right screen and you have the projector, it can be very effective. Hisense, in fact, we were talking about Hisense earlier, makes one called the Laser TV, which is an ultra short throw projector using laser illumination, and it comes with the screen. And they have models with, I think, an 80-inch, maybe a 90-inch, and certainly a 100-inch. Started with a 100-inch screen, and you put the projector like half a foot or a foot away from the wall on like a credenza or something. So it's like this box sitting on this thing, and boom, there's the image right there. Now, I will have to say that at CES, I saw the Hisense Laser TV, and I didn't think it was necessarily all that great. But it was under very poor conditions. The Klieg lights of the convention center. So, of course, it was difficult to really make a value judgment on it. But it's one of them. Optima makes one, at least one. I'm trying to think who else. Somebody out there. Somebody in the chat room can help me remember some other brands. But there are a few of them out there. Kalu, I wonder how they can keep brightness consistent from the top to the bottom of the image. That's a very good question. And it's amazing that they do a reasonable job of it. The other thing I mentioned in my comment to Twisted Mister there was they have to be using some form of keystone correction. Okay, so imagine a projector shooting a rectangular image, and imagine it shooting up from below the screen at a very steep angle. The image is going to be distorted. it's not going to be rectangular. It's going to be trapezoidal, to be specific and technical about it. And so you need something called keystone. That's a keystone error. You need something called keystone correction to bring the edges of the screen to be perpendicular to the top and bottom. Keystone correction, I recommend avoiding at all costs because it reduces the resolution of the picture, makes the picture softer. It has to. There's no way around it. And so these ultra short throw projectors must use it a lot, must use it heavily. And how they can make the image look still pretty sharp is really amazing. Thank you, Web 1204. I am still working on how to bring that back in a way that makes sense to everybody, the home theater geeks. I certainly do miss doing the show, and I know a lot of people out there miss it, and I regret that. But I'm still thinking about how best to do it in a way that doesn't bring me to my knees. But thank you very much for that. Expensive popcorn. Mike Heiss, if you want a hot projector, get DPI's 25,000 lumen 8K model. It was in Infocom. Yes, Mike, I'm sorry I didn't get to Infocom. And I did hear the DPI, or Digital Projection International, had an 8K projector. It's only $3 million. $3.09 million. Jeez. Holy smokes. Thank you, Emily the Strange. I do appreciate that as well. Let's see. What else can I answer for you guys? Mike B says, never go wrong with an Asus router either. Okay. Very good. Let's see. Oh, yeah. He saw Twisted Mister saw a UST projector on a video and thought it looked pretty amazing. Yeah, it is pretty amazing. Mike B is an Optimum user in the New York tri-state area, no doubt, with the Altis one. And Mike, if I read you correctly, you like it pretty good. So that's very good. Yes, ISP Hell sent me a link here to the devices that the BBC iPlayer will work on. And there was an article that I read in researching my piece from Forbes, which and the author John Archer is in England, and he said something about that list not being complete or completely accurate. So that's kind of what I took that to mean. Since I'm not in England, I couldn't really test it out for myself. Let's see here. Who else? Anybody else have a question for me in the last 60 seconds? Mike Heiss. Oh, sorry. $399K. Okay, that was so $400,000 for that 8K projector. A little typo there, Mike, eh? Emily the Strange. Very good. Where else can I learn about the innards of a whale's ear? How about that? You know what? Not on the show itself, but in the pre-show of Home Theater Geeks one time, I showed everybody my fossilized whale cochlea that is the inner ear. I tried to do some interesting things during the pre-show stuff, so you're exactly right. Thank you very much for that.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, and all that jazz. Cyber warfare. I hope I didn't depress you with cyber warfare. You know, in a way, cyber warfare, well, I almost want to say is better than regular warfare, but the potential for chaos is high. As I mentioned, one of the things most experts agree that is most vulnerable in the U.S. is our power grid. And, they've found malware on computers in many different areas of the power grid. That's because our grid is not one unified thing. It's every locality has a different company running the power. Sometimes they're private, sometimes they're public. Sometimes they're regulated. Apparently, sometimes they're not. And the amount of security that they apply, they're all computerized, but the amount of security that they apply varies greatly. So that's a vulnerable thing. And you bring power down, you've done a lot to disable a country. Other areas that people are concerned about are financial sector. And, of course, it's highly concentrated in New York, and it's very vulnerable, particularly to power and internet loss. And so I hope that we're working hard to protect them as much as we are working on offensive capabilities. We're working on defensive capabilities. And you as an individual, we as individuals have some responsibility, too, to keep malware off our systems so that it's not used against our nation. And that's what Fancy Bear is up to. That's why VPN Filter, this malware that's impacted so many routers, that's what it's all about. It's not about stealing your credit card data. That's not what it's about. It's about mounting a mass attack against the United States from within. So that's why it's so important. That's why the FBI said reboot your router. Unfortunately, that was not adequate advice, but I don't blame the FBI for not saying the truth, which is either get a new router or get an update to your router, or if there are no updates, get a new router. Because you can rewrite the firmware. If you can rewrite the firmware on your router, that will get rid of VPN Filter. But if your router isn't patched, if it's still vulnerable, it'll get infected very quickly again. So you can get rid of the infection by reinstalling your firmware. You can see why the FBI didn't tell people this. Everybody needs to reinstall the firmware on their router. Yeah. That at least that's 500,000 bricked routers guaranteed, right there. That's 1 million calls to the FBI office saying you broke my internet. So reboot your router was probably the best they could do at that point. But what we're really seeing is that this is not stopped in any way. VPN Filter, not in any way. 8888 Ask Leo. So what do? When you buy a device that's going to connect to the internet, whether it's a computer, a router, a doorbell, a microwave oven, lights, any device that connects to the internet, make sure you're buying it from a company that's reputable, well-known, and has a commitment to keeping them up to date. And that's really, really important. Now, you can't co-opt a light bulb to attack the grid. It doesn't have enough brains. But you can use it to get into your internal network and then find something else to attack. So we've seen Philips Hue light bulbs, which a lot of people have. I love them. We've seen them be a vector for bad guys to get into your home network. So even a light bulb, which can't really do much to bring down the national grid, still can be a security problem. So make sure if you buy something that goes on the internet, anything, that the company is going to keep it updated. Ideally, it should be automatically updated. You shouldn't have to do anything. Because what do you want? You're going to go around and update all your light bulbs one by one? No. If I'm looking at my network. I have 40 or 50 internet-connected devices in my network. The Sonos, the Amazon Echo, the Google Home, and on and on and on. Those things would all have to be updated by hand if they don't do their own updates. And fortunately, they do. It's important. So figure it out. Make sure you're getting updated. And only buy devices that update automatically. Yeah, it's a different world we live in. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number on the line. Murray from New Jersey. Hey Murray, how are you? Welcome.
Good. Hi, just getting off my Bluetooth for you. Good to talk to you, Leo.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you.
So I have an Apple TV 4K issue that hopefully you can help me with, since the Apple highest tech support couldn't figure it out.
Oh, great. Why do I always get the calls Apple can't help? All right, go ahead. Let's try.
So I'm using I have a Sony 4K HDR TV.
Okay. And
what's happening is I get this black screen with the volume. I can hear the sound, but no picture. And it's usually when I'm watching like Netflix or sometimes HBO or even the iTunes movie. And the only way I can get it to work is to restart it. And it happens every day.
Huh.
So,
every day?
Every day. So every day when I come to watch something in the evening, I have the same issue. And then if I restart it, it works.
And Apple wasn't willing to replace it?
By the way, I forgot to add, they did replace it.
Oh.
So
And
it happened with the...
and it's still happening, even with the replacement?
Yeah, so I guess that leads me to believe it's...
Maybe the Sony.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. At least they did the right thing, which was to replace the device. I use an Apple 4K TV with an LG TV all the time, and I really love it. I love how it works. So I want you to be able to use it because it should look great. And one of the things Apple's done very nicely with Apple TV is if you bought a movie in the past that is upgradable to 4K HDR, they just do it. You don't have to rebuy it.
Right. And it looks great when it
works.
After I restart it.
What is it? Are you watching when you're watching it? Does it go black or does it never? In other words, it never gets going.
It never gets going.
Yeah.
And then,
I'm thinking this is an HDMI handshake issue because you're still getting audio, but the picture's going dark. And possibly this is related to copy protection. But possibly it's just a handshake issue. HDMI, which is the way you're connecting to your TV, is kind of a nightmare. There are a lot of different protocols. And so the way it works is when you connect an HDMI device to another HDMI device, your Apple TV to your Sony, for instance,
right?
They talk to one another. They go, all right, what can you do? What can you support? Okay, oh, you do HDR 4K. All right, well, we'll send you that. If the handshake fails, then you may get something like audio but no video. Have you tried replacing the cable?
I have, and I'm using the one that Apple recommends, like a high-speed Belkin.
Yeah, that's important.
And I do notice that there is some like flickering sometimes. I know they have that thing where the Apple can control the TV and turn it off and turn it on.
Yeah, I hate that. I turn that off. That's CEC it's called, although each company has its different name for it. But CEC may or may not be related. Typically it's not, but I find the CEC to be annoying. Is it sleeping? Is it a sleeping issue? Is your TV going to sleep? Do you think that's what's going on?
It could be, but I don't think so because it just happens whenever I turn on the TV.
Yeah, your Apple TV is not waking up, I think. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that is a handshake issue. Somebody's in the chat room saying, make sure you go in the Sony menus and you're in media mode. I don't know what that means, but you might look in your Sony settings and see if there's something you can fix there. I don't off the top of my head, but if you've tried the cable, which is of course the first thing you should look at, and that didn't fix it, and you've looked at you've replaced the Apple TV, so that's not the problem. I think it has to be. You're right. It has to be a relationship to your Sony. Maybe the chat room. Somebody say again which Sony model you have, so the chat room can hear it.
It's the 55X930D.
Okay. Anybody who's listening who has an experience with that, you can either call us or if you're in the chat room, mention in the chat room and see if let's see if they've got a fix for it because I don't off the top of my head. I think you're right though in thinking. I mean, we know it's not the Apple TV now. It's got to be the Sony.
Yeah, unfortunately, I may just buy an LG TV. Or something like that.
Well, I can vouch for the fact that my Apple TV 4K works very nicely with the LG OLED in HDR mode. It looks spectacular.
and the Sony does have a nice built-in
great
Android app and everything, so I could just use the built-in app.
Oh, but that's yeah.
But, it's not that.
That's not
fun.
as good. No. Your Apple TV is the best way if you can do that. It's the best way to watch it. Absolutely. Hey, I'm sorry I can't be more help, but keep listening. Maybe somebody will come up with something. And check the website, techguylabs.com, and in a couple of days, maybe somebody will have put something up there as well.
I sure will.
Yeah,
thanks, Leo. Appreciate it.
I apologize. Yeah, that's a tough one, and it's really frustrating. And Apple hasn't been able to help, but I think that's too bad because in theory, they should have a database with lots of, different kinds of TVs and their experience with those TVs. Chat room's working on it. We'll get an answer soon. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls coming up in just a little bit. You stay right here. I don't know if you noticed, but I have some very minty fresh breath today. What are you laughing at? This is my Quip. Quip, okay, look. Ask your dentist. They will tell you that you ought to have an electric toothbrush. You just brush better than if you do it by hand. I've been using an electric toothbrush for so long, I forgot how to brush manually. Somebody gave me a regular toothbrush, and I didn't know how to use it. But you brush better with an electric toothbrush, but this is the one you want to get. Go to GetQuip, GetQuip, getquip.com/twit. It's on Oprah's O list, okay? Time Magazine said it was one of the best inventions of the year, and it is the first subscription electric toothbrush backed by the American Dental Association. So, point one, you should get an electric toothbrush. But if you go out on, shopping, you'll see they're hundreds of dollars. Not Quip, $25. And, I love this, they send you a subscription, new every 3 months, new head. That's what the dentists and hygienists say you ought to do. And you can also get their very nice minty fresh toothpaste as well by subscription. But here's what I like about the Quip. This is my new travel brush. First of all, it's battery powered, okay? So that means if you just put in a new, I think it's a AAA, I can never remember, new battery in here. So you don't have to bring a charger with you. See how small it is? Also, look at this. It's got an adhesive strip on the back. You put this right on the mirror, and you'll never forget to brush your teeth again. There's your brush, your toothbrush staring at you, staring you in the face. So great for travel. See how light and thin? It comes with a little travel test tube that you can put it in there. Put it in your travel kit, and you're set. You're good to go. You also, new brush heads every 3 months. And by the way, that's just $5, including free shipping worldwide. But we're going to throw in your first refill free. Quip starts at $25. You also get a great fun little guide on how to brush. I learned something. Not to rinse at the end. But I think it's very, my mom said rinse at the end. No, wash, but don't rinse. Because you want to let the fluoride sink in, right? This is a great little booklet. Simplify your oral health routine. They have a built-in timer, every 30 seconds you go to another quadrant, so it's a 2-minute timer, so you brush your teeth for the proper length. 30 seconds there, 30 seconds there, 30 seconds there, 30 seconds there. Quip's subscription plans are for your health, not just convenience, because it's important to get new brush heads. It comes with a mount that suctions right onto your mirror on sticks to use as a cover for hygienic travel wherever you take your teeth. I love that. Do take your teeth with you when you travel. It's my suggestion, as well as your Quip. And they're backed by a network of over 20,000 dentists and hygienists and hundreds of thousands of happy brushers who use Quip every day. I got my daughter this. I was so pleased. She said, Dad, I think I should have an electric toothbrush. I said, I don't go get one. I have the perfect brush for you. Because I know she's going to get the toothpaste and the heads automatically every 3 months. Here's the deal. $25. They have fancier ones if you want. In fact, it's so affordable. We got several because Michael always has sleepovers, and the kids never bring their brush. So we got a bunch of little Quips and then separate heads. So each one of them gets their own, and we write their name on the back there. Just go to getquip.com/twit right now. Get your first refill pack free when you purchase any Quip electric toothbrush. I think this is such a good deal. getquip.com/twit. Stop spending too much for your electric toothbrushes. Visit getquip.com/twit and get your first refill pack free when you purchase any Quip electric toothbrush. Get Quip, and you too will have minty fresh breath. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. That's the number to call if you have a Sony TV like that and you have the same problem with it. It seems like that we had a call similar to that, the Apple TV blanking out. I have to think that's an HDMI issue, but can't be sure. If you have an idea, let me know. 8888 Ask Leo. Jody on the line. I'm sorry, Richard on the line. We'll get to you next, Jody, from Tuckahoe, New York. Hi, Richard.
I think I have a question that a lot of other people will eventually have.
All right.
We have about 100 pounds of photographs recently inherited.
That's a bad sign when you don't say how many images, you say how in pounds. That
Yeah, exactly.
100 pounds of photos. Okay.
So I've got to transport them. That's why I know the weight. Now, this will be prohibitively expensive. The Epson photo scanner is also quite a bit of money. And one of the things I'm thinking about, of course, is to use my iPhone with 64 gigs and just shoot away and use Google Photos.
You bet.
As a solution.
You bet. That's a completely legitimate way of doing it. The only issue, of course, is time, because you're going to have to take the picture out of the 100-pound box, put it down, and take a picture of it. Although you've probably noted that the pictures are pretty good. They're almost basically that's what a scanner's doing. The advantage a scanner has is perfect lighting, and the photo is exactly flat to the camera. That's all a scanner is a camera, and it slowly goes down to get an image, so it can do a higher resolution image. If you want to do a good job with this, you could use any camera. An iPhone camera would be fine. But what you're going to want is you're going to want an easel or something to put the photo on that's lit properly, so you don't have glare. You don't want to be messing around each time saying, I'm getting some glare. You want to light it. You can go to the hardware store and get some light bulbs. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but you got to light it. You want to have that photo lying flat. Maybe what I would do is get a plate of glass that you put on the photo to flatten it out if they're not completely flat. And I bet if they're in a 100-pound bag, they're not. And then you probably want a tripod, somewhere to mount your camera so that it's always, as you probably know, if the camera's slightly above and you tilt it down, you're going to get some perspective distortion. It's going to, instead of being a rectangle, it's going to look like a trapezoid because of the angle of the camera. So what you want is the camera exactly parallel to the plane of the photo and exactly where the photo is. So a tripod or anything that can hold an iPhone, and you can get inexpensive ones from a variety of places that will hold that phone in place, would be ideal. And then it's a fairly simple thing. You take the picture, you put it there, maybe put a plate of glass on it if that's what you want to do to flatten it out. Snap it, take it off, put the next one on. I don't know how many photos 100 pounds is. But if, let's say,
there are multiple sizes. That's why I estimate that.
Yeah.
But your very good points about setting up a little studio and handling it professionally.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can do it with, things with clothespins and lights you buy at the hardware store. It doesn't have to be fancy. Mostly, you want it to be consistent, so that you get a nice straight-on image. And you've probably done this. I mean, if you see a picture on the wall, you're at your parents' house, and there's a picture of you when you were 2, and it's on the wall, framed on the wall, and you snap a picture with the iPhone, you know exactly what the issues are. Glare, off angle, those kinds of things. Sometimes getting the frame in there when you don't want it. A lot of that can be corrected in post, but the more you do right the first time, the less you'll have to fix later.
You're right on target. Spot on, Leo.
Yeah.
Can I add a point B to the question?
Sure.
Now, much harder. You have children, and many of your audience does. How do you get the kids interested in looking back 2 or 3 generations?
They're not.
To make this... Exactly.
They're not.
Exactly.
And, I think about that every time because I see people taking all these pictures and videos, and I think, you know what? No one's ever going to look at those. You know when kids get interested? When they get to our age, Jay, when they're at a certain, Richard, when they're at a certain age, I think it's mortality when you start to think, who's going to remember me when right? And that's when you start thinking about, and who remembers Grandpa? So your kids they don't care. They're not going to care until they're our age. And then it's too late. We're gone. So preserve it digitally. That way, at least if they do care at some point, they'll be able to access it, because that 100 pounds of photos, otherwise you might as well just throw the thing out. But if you're digitizing it, at least there's some hope. But you're absolutely right. You could spend a lot of effort doing this and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Maybe somebody's saying the local historical society. 8888 Ask Leo. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I think they'll be more interested because there are images. Don't you find that when there's an image, at least you can look at grandma and grandpa, look how they looked, If there's not an image at all, they don't care. There's nothing to see. Nothing to see here. So I think it's at least get those photos scanned. And I think the Epson, you'll see, it's not long after you do this that you'll go, yeah. So that's why the Epson is popular, because you just put that stack of photos. You can put 40 or 50 or more photos if they're fairly flat. You put them in the feeder, and it just does it. And it's going to do that exact thing. And so by the time all is said and done, depending on the number of photos, sometimes it's worth the $700 for the scanner, rather than spending $100 and thousands of dollars of your time, right? That's when you decide. He's been everywhere, man. Dreaming the country air, man. I don't know the lyrics, man. It's Johnny Jet, the guy from all over the world, man. He is our traveling guru. Johnny helps us travel better with technology. Hi, Johnny.
Hello, Leo. How you doing?
I'm just back from Las Vegas.
I saw that. How was it?
Oh, we went to see J-Lo. I want to have my own. Can I be Lilo? And you could be Joji. I want to have my own little. She had the whole stage. It said J-Lo on the stage. It was really.
So you went to Vegas just to see J-Lo?
One day. You know what? I can't take Vegas for more than a day or two. So this is the thing that Lisa and I, my wife and I, do every once in a while. It's a date. It's date night. But involves a little more than. In fact, she said, we're not doing this anymore. I said, why? Because we had a 2-hour wait for our delay in our flight coming back.
Okay.
It's funny. Alaska has taken over Virgin America.
Yep.
And then the takeover is not complete. Some of the planes are repainted. Some aren't. Both planes still had purple lighting, so I knew immediately. Oh yeah, this is the old Virgin America plane. And then on one plane they did the safety briefing verbally, but the other plane had the old Virgin America, which is a great safety video.
Right.
So they're Alaska's slowly incorporating.
Well, I think you were probably on one Virgin America plane and the other one you weren't. Because I don't even know if they're going to keep those Virgin America planes, because that's an A319 and A320s, and Alaska usually flies 737s.
Oh,
so
yeah, they were both A320s. They were both nice Aerobus.
Oh, okay. So they were both Virgin
Americas.
Americas.
Were old. Yeah, because they had purple lighting. That's the
okay. Gotcha. That's
right?
Definitely a giveaway.
But they definitely don't have the Virgin America flight attendants.
Right.
That's
well, Alaska flight attendants are pretty good. I got to tell you.
They're nice. They're fine. They get the job done. They're there for our safety.
Right.
They're I would say they're more business. They're more they get down to business types. The Virgin America, they were friendly. They were fun. Not this group. They just get on the plane. We're going to take you somewhere. Get off the plane.
Gotcha.
Very, very.
And were you up front? Did they have the lie flat seats still? Or?
No, we weren't up front. No, okay. We were row 20, way in the back. Okay. And perfectly happy. It's an hour flight. I'm not going to lie flat for an hour flight.
Agreed. Sometimes you can get that upgrade.
What would I want? Take a nap? No, I didn't take a nap. Anyway, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was great. It's sad to see Virgin America, which was this kind of classic, kind of new style airline. Did they fail, or they weren't big enough to compete? I guess they weren't big enough to compete.
Well, they were losing money.
Yeah, so they got bought out by Alaska, who could figure out how to make money out of it, I guess.
Yeah, but they paid a lot of money for that. People say they paid too much. I remember when they first launched, they invited me to go check out the plane. And I knew Richard Branson was going to be there, but I thought it was going to be a whole group of people. And I get there, and they're like, Richard comes down the alley. He's like, you must be Johnny Jet. And I'm like, oh, my God.
I didn't
prepare anything. I didn't prepare one question.
Hey, I was remiss last week because you get, I guess, a lot of brushes with celebrity, but you've been posting pictures of Anthony Bourdain at the Cayman Cookout.
Right.
And how well did you know the late Anthony Bourdain?
I didn't know him that well. I met him a couple times, but at the Cayman Cookout was an exceptional place where you just mingle with him and hang out with him, and he was. I described him as the Fonz of travel, or someone else described him as that, but that is exactly who he was. He was the Fonz of travel. He was so cool. He was no nonsense. The girls loved him. The guys wanted to be like him.
Yeah.
And he was genuinely, he was a nice guy. And
so sad. I just adore him. I'm reading Kitchen Confidential, which somehow I'd missed, and he's brilliant. Right. Just a great writer, great
all
character.
His books just skyrocketed to first they were bestsellers, and now they're again at the bestseller.
Yeah. I'm listening to the audio version of it, which he reads. So that's the best way. You hear
I would like to do that.
His voice is great. Yeah.
I mean, the guy was a travel legend, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around him taking his own life. And but check out. I wonder if they're going to keep the Cayman Cookout going on. His best friend Eric Repair. It's his event. It's at the Ritz-Carlton in Cayman Islands, and it's a great way to get up close with all these celebrity chefs. Jose Andres is there. Tom Colicchio.
As usual,
Michael Mina, a number of them.
I look at these things and go, yeah, I'll do that someday. But then you lose people and you never get a chance. So that's just a reminder. Do them when you get a chance, when you can.
Yep.
Don't put it off.
Agreed. And it's every January. They invited me this past January, and I passed. And I'm kicking myself now.
Well, now would be the time to go. I'm sure they'll do one more, and it'll be kind of a memorial in some ways to the late chef.
I'll try and make it.
Yeah. Anyway, we talk about travel. You help us with apps and websites, and I wanted to bring that up. But what else?
Yep.
What's going on?
Well, speaking of international travel, so you know as well as anyone else, traveling with your phone can be difficult.
Yes.
I use T-Mobile, which I think is very helpful.
Great. Google Fi is my choice, but same thing. Yeah.
But if you're traveling long term, and a lot of people are this summer, they're going away and they're going to spend a month in a certain country.
Nice.
The best thing to do is to get a SIM card for that whatever country you're going to. And there's actually a website that one of my friends recommended. It's the longest URL ever, so I have to put it into the.
It's
basically
the prepaid with data wiki. I talk about this all the time, and I just tell people Google prepaid with data, and you'll find it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that. I actually got it from one of my other buddies.
He's been listening to the show. Oh, I know.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But this tells
all
you
the time.
everything you need to know
about. In fact, if you search for prepaid with data, the first result you get is me talking about them.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Oh my God! I have to go back. I wrote about it this week. I need to go back and credit.
That's all right. No, you don't have to credit me. I didn't invent it or anything like that. But it is a really useful website for people who travel.
It is. I mean, it tells you everything. And, even the United States, they have it broken up with Alaska, because Alaska is its own basically beast. They have Puerto Rico as well. So, foreign travelers who are coming here, they know exactly how they can get the best SIM cards. The big thing is make sure your phone is unlocked. Right. You got to they used to be a lot more difficult than it is these days.
This is so useful. It's really great.
Okay, good. Yeah. So, I was like, the URL is going to kill you, but I'm glad.
Just search for prepaid with data wiki, and you'll find it.
Okay, and I also just tweeted it, and I will put it in the show notes, or I'll put it in the chat room right now. But
so that's your website. I think it's a very good choice. Yep.
Okay, and now here's my app. Are you ready? This one is actually recommended by one of your listeners. They sent me an email a couple weeks ago, and I checked it out. It's called Here We Go, and the URL is WeGo. WEGO.here, HERE.com.
That's a good name. WeGo.here.com. Well, what's just a big map? What do I get?
Well, it's not a website. This is it's an app, so it's free from iOS and Android. Uh-huh. And what you do is this guy claims it's the best free navigation ever for driving, walking, public transportation. You can download the high quality maps for free in all these whole countries, so you don't even need data when you're traveling. And this guy said that it saves him hundreds of dollars. He has nothing to do with the company, by the way.
Good. Good tip. Here we go. City navigation.
Exactly.
Nice.
And it has a really high rating too, as well.
Yeah, and it's free.
Yeah. So
Good deal.
Give it a shot.
Good deal. You know, I have as many maps in your phone as you can hold. Google Maps, Apple Maps was down this week, so it's good to have others. City Mapper, which I use, and this is a good one. Here we go. Johnny Jet's a good one.
Time for a tip? Or are we done?
No, we're done. I used up your time. I'm sorry. JohnnyJet.com. You know, you want tips? Go to his website, JohnnyJet.com. It's great. Lots of stuff, free travel newsletters you could sign up for. He's got a travel finder. And you should also follow him on Twitter at JohnnyJet and Instagram for the pictures. You had fun in Fort Lauderdale?
I did. I was in LA this week for a day.
Where are you now?
I'm in Toronto.
Oh, man. This guy gets around. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Safe travels, Johnny.
Thank you. You too.
Hey, you, get off of my iCloud. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 ask Leo. That's the phone number. Line 3. Now it's your turn. Jody in Los Angeles. Hi, Jody.
Hey, I win the prize.
Yeah, I'm sorry to keep you on hold so long. Thanks for your patience.
That's not a problem. It gave me a good excuse to have to listen to the show. You know?
Yeah, that's my idea. You know, one by one, we'll get you.
It was often that at this hour I would be taking my granddaughter, who was 13, to lunch, and I'd look, oh, wait, look who's on. And I'd turn the radio on, and I'd say, guess who this is? And she looks at me, she goes, the tech guy.
I know, Grandpa. We have to listen to him every weekend.
But the things she learned in those years.
There you go. There you go. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Hey, oh, by the way, I have an imitation to do first. See if you can tell me who this is. Okay, you ready?
I'm listening. Dick DiBartolo? Mad's Maddest Writer?
Ooh.
No?
I'll do it again.
I don't know who.
You had on earlier your TV video guy.
My TV video guy, Scott Wilkinson. He's more like, ho, 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 ho.
He also has that explosive, high-pitched...
Oh, I haven't heard that one. I've heard his ho, ho, his Santa Claus laugh.
Which is very good. Yeah, I met him in NAB a couple of years ago and got to hear the laugh in person.
All right. I don't get to spend that much time in person with Scott, so maybe you have a more accurate representation in your mind than I do.
He's a great guy, great addition.
I agree. I love Scott. Yeah,
you have him there. Well, let me jump in here. I have two separate questions, and I'll try to be quick.
Okay.
I have an early 2009 24-inch iMac, and I thought about donating it to the Smithsonian. But
what is it? Is that the one with the white base or?
No, it's the kind of brush chrome.
Okay, so it's the same style. It's a little thicker, but it's the same style that we have today.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's the 2.66 gigahertz Intel Core 2 Duo.
Okay, that's not bad. Really, honestly, it's not that far off the current crop.
And I'm glad about that. It's just, is anything that's that old, it's running very, very slowly. And, of course, the hard drive is almost completely full. My wife has become a professional photographer and needs something to run Photoshop and Lightroom on, and something that when she clicks an app, it doesn't take 3 to 4 minutes to open.
Yeah. Lightroom is a pig.
It seems like the smart idea would be to take that hard drive out and replace it with an SSD.
I think if you don't want to donate it, you might be able. So here's the differences between that laptop and that iMac and today's iMacs. The screens are bigger now, by the way. They're 27 inches, which I think she'd benefit from. They're also much more accurate and a broader color gamut. And as a photographer, those are important things. You want the image on the screen to look as close as possible to the actual image. And the more modern iMacs are better at that. The graphics processor in that is anemic, but frankly, it's anemic in the modern iMacs. The biggest difference is you only have 2 cores running at 2.77 gigahertz. If you bought a new one today, you'd have 4 cores. And again, that's not going to make much of a difference. It doesn't make a difference in day-to-day operations, only in the few operations in Lightroom and Photoshop that use multi-cores. But they're the ones that are slowest, so they're the ones that you'll notice the difference in. Lightroom is slow on iMac Pro. I bet I spent $7 grand, I think, on an iMac Pro. They start at $5,000. That's the 10. I got a 10-core, 32 gigabytes of storage, massive thing, and Lightroom's still a pig.
Wow.
And it's Adobe's fault. The reason, and even Adobe acknowledges this, the way it was written, which is basically a bunch of Lua scripts putting together some low-level stuff is just inherently slow. And where it's slowest, and I bet you this is where your wife feels the pinch, is when you're looking at raw images, big, large images straight off the camera, and you want to go through them fairly quickly. So you're looking at your grid of images. You open one up. You want to say, is this one to keep or not? And then you hit the right arrow to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. It can be seconds in between images, and that really is painful.
Yep.
So,
and just everything about it is laggy. I mean, I have a 5K Retina that's a couple of years old.
Oh, well, you know the difference. You've got a good one.
Yeah, I do. I use it for 4K editing, and, I got a G-Ray and all that. And so I don't want to leave her, back in the Stone Ages, but we don't have the money right now to buy something new.
They're expensive. I think putting an SSD will make a huge difference on that.
Well, then the next question comes to, there's an HHD in there, and then HDD, and then there's the optical drive. Some say just take the optical drive out, put the SSD in there. Others are saying, keep the optical drive, change out the HDD. Do you have an opinion one way or another?
Yeah, the others who are saying that have obviously never taken an iMac apart.
Right.
All of this is moot unless you've looked at the video of what it takes to take an iMac apart. You need a giant suction cup because once you unscrew the back, you then have to, with a suction cup, carefully lift the screen out. It is, I've done it on that vintage iMac, and it is, actually, I didn't do it. I took one of my engineers and said, you're going to do this. Colleen did it. And she was very good. She did exactly what you just described. She put in 2 hard drives, replacing the optical drive. A solid state drive will be much faster than the HDD. And this is a good point, which is that the solid state drives cost more per gigabyte. So one reasonable way to do this would be to get a less expensive, say, 128 gig solid state drive, and that's just for the operating system and the applications, and then get a large, say, terabyte spinning drive and put that in the optical drive port. And that way you'll have lots of room for all her photos, but the things that need to be sped up will be sped up. So that isn't a bad way to do it, but you're probably not going to want to do this yourself anyway.
Yeah, I did watch the tutorial in great detail, and it's...
You feel confident? All right.
Yeah, I'm a filmmaker. I work in high definition and 4K.
All right, you're a geek, All right.
And that stuff, yeah, kind of.
So then the biggest... Okay, so now I can talk to you at a little bit of a higher level. So now I understand you understand this. You have a 5K iMac. The other thing that is going to hurt her is the graphics processor, because Lightroom and Photoshop do use the GPU for certain things, and those things are not going to get faster. What does she complain about? Where does she feel like it's a pig? Because the other thing is the new Lightroom is faster. It's just horrible. I don't want to use it.
Yeah, and that's another question we had, too. She's trying to decide between Photoshop and Lightroom.
Use Lightroom. She doesn't need Photoshop, almost certainly.
Yeah, sure. She's got a newer version of Photoshop Elements, which has worked.
That's fine. That's fine. Lightroom is the photographer's tool. That's the one where you look at all your images, you pick your images, you can do color correction. It processes RAW very, very well using the Adobe Camera Raw plugin. It's excellent. I would look at the subscription. For $10 a month, you can get both Photoshop and Lightroom.
Oh, can you really?
Yeah. The photography, that's what I do, the photography subscription. It's on 2 machines, too, by the way, so you'd get a copy of it as well as her.
Oh, that's kind of good.
$10 a month is a good deal, and you get a terabyte of storage.
Oh, is that on Adobe's website?
Yep. And you can use either Lightroom Classic, which is what I've ended up using, or the new Lightroom CC. A lot of photographers complain about Lightroom CC. It is faster. Adobe understood that a rewrite was needed, but they changed capabilities so dramatically and the user interface so dramatically that a lot of people just say, I can't use this. I finally gave up. I tried. And so I'm back on Lightroom Classic. So
look at that.
And then the other thing I do, if the real pain point is importing and scanning through your RAWs, there are a number of really good programs that are exactly designed for that. They're cheap, they're $30 or $40, that will let her go through, pick all the images, and then put them in Lightroom for editing. So there's I think it's called Fast RAW Viewer. I've used that one. And, oh boy, I wish I could remember the names. And of course, they're not on this Mac that I'm looking at right now. But there are a couple of very good programs for quickly importing RAWs into Lightroom. So the thing that's the slowest, which is reviewing images and picking them, can be handled by an external program and then imported into Lightroom.
Okay. Well, the main area that's bogged us down the most is the boot time is pretty long, and when you open
SSD
any program, I don't care what it is.
SSD will help that immensely. That's where it helps. Boot time and load time. That's where an SSD, a solid-state drive, makes a huge difference.
And do you think then it would be because I can get for example, Otherworld Computers makes a 3G SSD. It's not super fast, 250.
I usually buy my internal SSDs from Otherworld Computing. They're very good. They're Mac focused. I use their Mercury generally, which are a little more expensive, but anything's going to be better than the current drive. In fact, one of the reasons it's slow probably is the current drive is worn out.
I'm sure.
It's old. It's 9 years old. It's time to get a new one.
Yeah. And do you, would you, if it was yourself and you're trying to save money, would you just go ahead and get a smaller SSD, put your OS on there, and then a larger HDD, or should I just get a 1 terabyte SDD and put it in there and call it a day?
I'd get a smaller one. You don't have to put the second drive inside. Remember, an iMac is pretty fast with its external ports, so you could have an external drive too. But I think that's the better. You get a 256 and you're good. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Sorry, I ran out of time. You know, it depends how much you love your wife. Is she listening?
In the graphics card, we're not expecting, crazy performance out of this. We just want something that's going to open the apps faster, going to make it work better, and something I could do for $300 or $400. And it seems like this is a reasonable compromise.
Absolutely. And Otherworld Computing has the videos. They even sell the tools, including the suction cup.
Oh, yeah. I looked at their thing. They have this whole kit for $310. It's a 1 terabyte drive, $310 with all the tools and everything in it. And I thought, well, shoot, that's not so bad, really.
No. Drives. The good news is SSDs have gotten less expensive.
They really have.
That's not their Mercury, though. That's a slower one. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's the 250, 230 megabits per second read and write speed.
Oh, that's plenty.
Is it for that? Yeah,
because you're probably, you should check, but the data bus on that 2009 is probably not much faster than that. Remember, it's going to come in over the SATA bus.
Right.
So what Apple's doing today, I don't know if they did it on your 5K, but they're certainly doing it on their modern ones, is their PCI Express-based video cards. So, hard drives. So that's going to make a huge difference in the throughput. But I bet you in that 2009, you might have to look at the specs. It's probably on the SATA bus, not on the PCI bus. It might, 2009, they might have started putting it on the PCI bus. Check.
Yeah,
and
I will do that.
So what you want to know is what's the speed, what's the max bus speed on that computer? And if it's faster than 230 megabytes a second, then maybe you'd want to get a faster one. But there's no point otherwise. Because you'll choke the I/O faster than you'll choke the drive.
Makes sense.
Right. So, yeah, that's what you want to do. And I think everymac.com will have the specs for that Mac in terms of how the hard drive's connected.
Okay.
Otherworld will know that, too.
All the customer service guys and asking.
Yeah. So Rick's pointing out there's two things that make an SSD faster. Seek time is 0, and that does make a difference. But really, in my opinion, it's also the read time. And having you'll get some speed benefit even on a slower bus with a faster one. But your seek time is going to be 0 no matter which of those you get. Yeah. So the throughput of the drive is what we're comparing to the throughput of your machine.
Yeah, I try to use SSDs almost exclusively.
Oh, of course you do. Yeah.
I'm shooting some 6K and 8K stuff. It's ridiculous.
Before you probably use this, but before you make the change, get the Blackmagic disk tester. It'll tell you what the current speed is, and you'll see what the difference is.
Well, that's good to know. I actually do quite a lot of work for Blackmagic. So
they have a free. It's on the App Store. Disk benchmarker, and the reason Video Pros use it is it'll tell you what quality video you can import.
No, that's good to know.
Yeah. So on the iMac Pro, it's got green checks all the way down.
Sure. So. Do you have a preferred way of transferring everything off of the existing drive to something else and then get it back on there when we've got the new drive in there?
So when Otherworld Computing sells you that, they may offer you, and if they do take it, an enclosure for the old SSD that turns it into a USB drive. If they do that, then you can clone the external, you can boot to the external drive by holding down the Option key. and then use Super Duper or something like that to clone it over to the internal drive so that it's bootable.
Should I not transfer all of that over onto another drive before I even take it out?
Well, you could. It's up to you. So if they don't offer a free enclosure, you don't want to spend the $100 for the enclosure, then if you've got an external drive, the program is called Super Duper. It'll take the internal drive and make a bootable clone on an external drive. And then, of course, you can go back in the other direction after you do it.
Okay, good to know.
It's nice to have that external enclosure if you can, because then you can continue. Then you will still have access to the old. The SSD is going to come out. It's going to be a SO-DIMM. It's going to be a. It's not going to be. Well, actually, I don't know on that vintage whether it'll be a drive or it'll just be a SIM. If it's just a card, then you'll need an enclosure to be able to access it.
Right. No, that's not a bad idea. I had one other quick question. I don't want to eat up everybody else's time.
That's all right. We're in break. Now's a good time.
Okay, good. My Gmail, I know you get this question sometimes. I set up a Gmail account a couple of years ago, and so much of my mail, even new mail that I am sending to people, goes into the trash. Never gets to them. Says you have to restore message. I have gone through filters. I cannot figure out what the heck is making this happen. Emails I've gotten from people I've worked with forever. Some emails go to trash, some emails don't. I cannot figure out for the life of me how to do that. So I'm having to check my trash many times a day, as often as I do my regular mail. Any thoughts on what the heck is going on?
It's not going into junk, it's going into trash?
Yeah.
So junk would be spam filtering. Nothing should go into trash. You got to look at your filters and see if there's a filter.
Well, I have I get so much, hey, sexy lady here, sort of thing. And I'll click on those and I'll set up a filter to delete those when they come in.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there's
delete all those filters. You shouldn't get that much on Gmail. They should be filtering that out anyway.
Yeah, man, I get like 10 a day.
Oh, I know which ones you mean. Yeah, they're just plain text. This is a real problem for Google. I get a lot of Hangout messages in French because my name is French, and it goes, oh, coucou, and it's like, I don't want, go away. Sometimes they call me. It's really, and I know it's some guy. But it's really horrible. Yeah, those are hard to filter because they're just text. But don't set up filters because that's what's happening is they're catching other stuff too.
So should I just delete all those filters?
I would. I bet it'll fix the problem.
And then just delete those spam as they come in. Delete those.
Spam them. There's a spam button in Gmail that signals Google this is spam.
Right.
And they're crowdsourced anti-spam. So you're doing everybody a favor by tagging it, and I think it will eventually, they'll stop.
Okay. Well, it's not a big deal to just click select all and delete. I can do that.
Yeah.
But,
I know it's nice to have a filter, but the problem is it's hard to write a filter that's going to work.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happened is by making a general filter, you're getting other stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, I know. It's a real problem on Gmail. I actually stopped using Gmail.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What are you using now?
Fastmail. It's a paid IMAP service. I used to use Gmail for spam filtering, and it's really more because my last name is Laporte, so my email address, laporte@gmail.com, is just a magnet for French spam.
Bizarre, huh?
I also get a lot of email from people whose last name is Laporte who, for some reason, did like Julian space Laporte at gmail.com. And so I get their mail. And I'm sick of that, too. So I just stopped using Gmail. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I will look into that. Final question. When I'm listening to your podcast, it sounds like the music is sped up. And is it just me? Or
you're listening to KFI, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what for some reason, KFI wants to get more ads in, so they speed up some of the content, and there's nothing I can do about it. But if you don't want that, listen to the podcast or listen to it on twit.tv/live. You can listen live there, and we don't speed it up.
I played in a band in high school and college, and I played a lot.
You know it, so you hear it. Yeah, my voice I think is sped up. Yeah, they're not. They're trying to get more ads in.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that was the reason.
Yeah. It's very frustrating, but I can't do anything about it. They're our number one affiliate.
Yes.
And I love them.
Yes,
I just wish I wish they wouldn't do it.
Have you? I have more questions, and I wish we had more time, but I sure do enjoy your show. Been following you for an awfully long time. And
thank you.
working in the entertainment business, it's good to have somebody like yourself who is a geek, but who also is entertaining.
Oh, aren't you?
And you seem to have a
kind?
really good heart. You're very respectful of people, and I just enjoy listening to you.
You can make me cry now, and I got to go back on the air. Thank you.
Well, just think about something horrible, and you'll be.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all the tech, anything with a chip in it. 8888 Ask Leo, that's my number. 888-827-5536. It's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, no, you can still call. No, honest, you can still call. I wish you would, please. All you have to do is use Skype, and we get calls from all over the world. It's kind of fun for me. Think about, this show used to be just in Los Angeles. Now it's all over the world. 8888 Ask Leo. When I mention or talk about something on the show, I always put links and information about it. Actually, I don't. James does. James Arufo writes it all down and puts it on our website, techguylabs.com. He makes notes, so you don't have to. I know you're driving, you're busy. You don't have to pull out a pen. Just go to techguylabs.com. Everything will be there, and it's free. There's no sign up. There's no subscription. It's just there so you don't have to get in a wreck trying to keep track of everything we talk about. Let's go back to the phones. That was Jody. Let's go to David in Woodland Hills, California. Hi, David.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well, thank you. I was listening to you earlier when you had the caller in who was having problems with the HDMI handshake.
Yes, we want help with that. So he had an Apple TV, 4K Apple TV, and he had a Sony TV, and sometimes he would just get, mostly when he woke it up, right? He would never get a picture. He'd only get audio.
So I was having that issue years ago when I was using a home theater PC, and I would have problems with it waking up, especially if the PC was still on and the TV was then turned off and then the TV turned on later. That's when I had the issue. So what I found at the time, the company was Geffen that made it, but I saw that Monoprice has one too. It's called Dr. HDMI. And it basically solves handshake issues by always keeping that HDMI line open and on. It's a plugged-in device.
How clever, because it is an HDMI handshake issue. It's that coming back from sleep, it can't figure out what to see. Yeah. Right.
So this device just sits in line between the device and the TV. I think, if I remember correctly, the Geffen version, you had to plug in while you were setting it up, and then you could unplug it, so there was no other wires other than the HDMI going in and out of it. And it just sat there in line, and it solved my issue with the HDMI handshake. Yeah.
It's from Geffen, Geffen.
Yeah, and Monoprice has one as well.
And Monoprice is great. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's $30 or $40. Can't be too expensive.
No, it's more than that. I think it's like $90.
Okay.
It might be easier than trying to. And at least it's a way to troubleshoot and see if it is the TV or the.
Great tip. Great tip. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Have a good one.
I appreciate it. You too. Apple has all sorts of. And I'll put this in the show notes. There is an Apple support page. If your Apple TV will turn on, mostly that doesn't have anything to do with the issues he's having. But if you see a black screen or briefly see an Apple logo before returning to a black screen, this is a weird one, but I think this has to do with handshaking. They're not saying that, but I'm pretty sure it does. Try using the remote to change video resolutions. So on an Apple TV 4K, hold the menu and volume down for 5 seconds and then release it. I did not know about this. Your Apple TV will switch to a new resolution every 20 seconds. When you see a picture, press OK or cancel to quit. So that's the handshaking. That's redoing the handshaking. It's saying, do you understand what handshaking is? Remember your modem? In the old days, did you ever have a modem? Kids, stop listening. This is going to disgust you. But in the early days, to get on the internet, we had to use our phone line to do it. And in the very early days, you would take your phone. Again, kids, you won't remember this, but the phones used to have like these cups. These, you'd have one for your ear and one for your mouth, and you'd put them up and you'd talk into them like that. It was a curved device. It's very weird, I know. And we used to have something called an acoustic coupled modem, where you would jam the two ends of the phone handset into rubber suction things. Really good, so they'd seal. Then later you got modems you could just connect to the computer, or the phone line rather. And what you'd hear, remember this? You'd hear the handshake. That's called the handshake. At the beginning when the modem comes on, and remember that? Yeah, you remember that. If you're of a certain age, thank God future generations will have no idea why Leo just made those strange sounds. That's called handshaking. What's happening is the modem, the device that you put that's doing the phone calling, is connecting to the computer saying, what can you do? How fast you want to go? And they're agreeing on a speed and a bit rate, and there's a bunch of different parameters they had to agree on. Once they agreed, it went silent. The handshake was over, and now data is being transmitted at an agreed upon rate. So the same thing, you don't hear that anymore, but the same thing's happening with your HDMI devices. Because HDMI is capable of displaying, 720p, 1080i, 1080p, 4K, UHD, all of the different things the HDMI can do. So it has to have a conversation. Handshake's just another way of saying conversation with the TV, and they're agreeing on what rate to go at. My guess is what's happening with this Apple TV is the TV is on probably. The Apple TV is asleep. It's a little groggy. It wakes up and it doesn't do the handshake. It just says, oh, I remember, I'll talk to you like that. The TV can't see it. It can hear the audio because the audio doesn't need the same kind of handshaking, right? The audio goes, oh, yeah, fine. But it doesn't get the picture because the handshaking didn't happen. So Apple's fix, which does not mention handshaking, is basically saying, change the resolution on your Apple TV. That will wait. The TV will go, what? Huh? They'll redo the handshake. So again, the fix is hold the menu and volume down for 5 seconds, then let go. This is so stupid. This is a shame, but this is how it works. Your Apple TV will switch to a new resolution every 20 seconds. When you see something you like, when it says HDR, select OK, and you're done. Shouldn't have to do that. It really comes down to the Apple TV doing something other boxes also do, like Roku. They sleep. If you're not watching something actively to save power, they go into a dark mode like your computer does. But unfortunately, they're not very good. Just like your computer, they're not very good at waking up. Computers have the same problem, right? You close the lid and then you open it up, and sometimes the screen will go all funny, and sometimes it won't wake up at all. This is the same thing. It's difficult. Sleep is hard. So it's my guess that's what's going on. And, of course, what David was saying is there's a device that doesn't let it sleep. It just says, stay alive, stay awakes. Like they actually call them stay awakes. Marshall, Des Moines, Iowa. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Marshall.
Hello.
What's up?
Okay, I have a friend that has a Lenovo i7 Idea Center.
Uh-huh.
The AIO 27-inch touchscreen.
Yep.
And he bought it years ago when the i7 was like the new chip to have, because I wanted him to have one that would last. Well, somewhere along the line, he started out at Windows 8 and moved to Windows 10, and somewhere along the line, the system messed up. So he paid a guy to fix the system, and ever since he's got it back, it just crashes every 6 months. And I've been telling him over the phone how to reinstall Windows 10.
He's on Windows 10? He's on Windows 10? Yeah, well, that's the good news. He doesn't need a serial number anymore or anything like that.
Yeah.
And you probably told him, go to Microsoft, download the Windows Media Installer, right?
Yes.
Put it on a USB drive, wipe your hard drive, reinstall Windows, because whatever that guy did was wrong.
Well, what we're having trouble with is it's a SSD with a old spin drive, and he can't access the SSD card. It doesn't let him install onto the SSD card.
Yeah, it's probably an M.2 SSD, and sometimes they are a little odd, but it should. Windows should know about it and install it just fine.
Because now what is happening, I'm doing it over the phone, and I steered him just to install it wherever it would take it. So we have it on a hard drive. I believe it's on the spin drive. So he's installed fresh from a Windows ISO image or whatever. And now his monitor messed up. All
right. So I think the key is, I don't know where he got this image. Get a new one. Go to Microsoft.com, search for the Windows Media Installer, and download the latest version of Windows 10 onto a USB thumb drive. Boot up into that and do the install from there. Everything you just described is a driver issue. It doesn't. So I suspect he's trying to install it. Maybe it's from a CD or he's not the most current version. Because what it needs to do is recognize, you have an M.2 drive, then it should see that and install there. You shouldn't have to install it on a slow drive. That's not satisfactory. Unless, now wait a minute. It could be a hybrid system. Unfortunately, and I bet you that's what this is. You see a SSD in a hard drive, but the system's not supposed to. It's only supposed to see a single hybrid drive. You need Lenovo drivers, probably. I bet you that's the issue. Hang on, I have to take a break, but I suspect that's the issue. Well, I'll talk to you off the air a little bit. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We'll get more of your calls coming up right after this. I bet you this is anything. So I'm sorry I had to take a break, but I'm still here with you, Marshall.
Yeah.
I bet you this is not... So Intel was selling this crazy setup how big is the SSD? Do you know?
I think it's a 64 or 32.
32, I bet. It's a hybrid. So the idea, and it was a very bad idea, and they still sell these, was that they would take a small, like 32 gig SSD, pair it with a spinning hard drive, and they'd put the stuff that you needed to load fastest on the SSD automatically, kind of, and then the rest of it on the spinning hard drive. It's not a good solution. It was an Intel solution, and the problem with this is the operating system is just going to see two drives, and you need to have the.
I listened to some of your previous shows, and you were talking booting from a Linux flash to get in.
Yeah, that's not going to solve it either.
Okay. Because what he's actually running into is he's getting into a paywall. He hits a driver because the monitor, I says, something's going on. We need to get a monitor drive from Lenovo. And he hits Lenovo's website, and all of a sudden it says, you have to pay us $2 for the driver.
He's not on Lenovo's website. He's on some other. He's not. There's these horrible sites that do this. He needs to go to Lenovo. He's gone the wrong site. The problem is you're doing this remote control, right? You're not in the same room.
No.
Yeah.
No. I've been there. See, I installed Windows 10 on my iMac numerous times just to do it myself. So I'm like, why is it so hard for him to do it on an actual
because
machine?
he's not as sophisticated as you are. So the first thing, he's gone to some driver site that's not Lenovo. They have Lenovo drivers and they charge you, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're free from Lenovo because it's a relatively recent computer, right?
It's like 3 years old.
Yeah. It's free. There's no way Lenovo's charging you $2.
No.
So tell him, go to lenovo.com.
Well, that's what we were doing it from Windows driver, the Windows device manager. And that's when he then said, I'm at Lenovo, I need to pay $2. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking the guy might have installed something.
Yeah, maybe.
Redirect. And that's where I'm like, we can't wipe that SSD drive.
I get it.
We don't have access. And I'm like, we might be beyond our. So he's bought other computers.
Oh my God! Now, the problem is that when you have one of these Intel hybrids, if it's not.
Well, it's going to be a tricky. It's something.
Well, ideally, did he ever get any restore discs from Lenovo?
No, it's all been. He bought an actual copy from Best Buy of Windows 10.
I have to run, unfortunately, because the break is over. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo, the phone number. Spent a little more time talking with Marshall. So what's going on, and this was a bad idea, and I think they still sell computers like this. Intel had this crazy idea. Apple started it. Apple had something. Remember the Fusion drive? If you had a Mac, you might remember a Fusion drive. The idea, I guess, this was back when solid-state hard drives were very expensive, was, all right, we'll put a less expensive, tiny 16 or 32 gigabyte solid-state drive in there with a regular spinning drive. There'll be two drives in there. But the operating system will think it's just one drive. Well, we don't tell it's a secret. The firmware in the computer will manage the two drives as if they're one, and it will move onto the solid-state. You can already see the problem here, right? It'll move onto the solid-state drive, stuff that needs to be accessed quickly, leave the other stuff on the hard drive. Don't tell the operating system. Just say it's C drive. Don't tell them anything. And, of course, there are all sorts of problems with this. It's easy to, if you don't know that's what's going on and you try to install, you're going to have other problems. So the reason Windows doesn't want to install on that little drive is because it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to install on the spinning drive. It's not even supposed to know about the little solid-state drive. The operating system, the firmware, the BIOS we used to call it, remember, is supposed to know about it, and it's supposed to handle all of this and make it all look like one drive. Apple had all sorts of trouble with the Fusion drive. They couldn't, for the longest time, you couldn't run Windows 10 on an Apple because Apple's drivers Windows drivers didn't understand what a Fusion drive was. But I think in this case, it'd be my guess that all you really need to do is reinstall Windows, pretend there's no other drive in there. Don't ignore it. Reinstall Windows, erase the drives, I guess. Erase the drives and install Windows on the C drive. You'll then want to go to Lenovo. He was saying Lenovo wanted $2 for drivers. That's not the right Lenovo. That's Lenovo. Somebody said in the chat room, oh, that's Lenovo.pizza. Don't go there. Go to Lenovo.com. It's actually support.lenovo.com. You can get the right drivers. You want the drivers for that particular machine. It's my guess that if you install Windows on the C drive and then install the drivers, that the drivers will then say, oh, yeah, it's a hybrid system and do the right thing. It was a terrible idea. And I hope it's going away. There's really no reason for it anymore because SSDs, solid-state drives, aren't that expensive anymore. You don't need, that's a false economy. You saved money, but you made a machine that was very difficult to service. 8888 asks Leo, if you've done this, you can call. Let's see here. I might have a minute or two before we have to take another break. Let's see. Line 2 is Michael in Santa Monica. Hi, Michael.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure. What can I do for you?
So I come from a bit of an SEO background, but I'm not a real in-the-trenches programmer type techie or anything. But I have two people very close to me who were much older that had scams that I noticed a similar pattern in, and I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on it and maybe alert anyone else out there who sees the same pattern.
Let me guess. Somebody called saying, I'm calling from Windows.
No, it's the reverse. So it's an SEO trick where they're using the hyper-targeting of Google to get search results to show up for a very specific zip code, age group, gender, etc.
Oh.
In the same way you target someone who also likes, collecting hobby trains or something.
Hang on a second, because I want you to tell me what it says in the app. We got to take a break. Yeah, it's scammers are out there, and they're so clever. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So Michael called us from Santa Monica. He wanted to share some information, a scam that preys particularly on older folks. So they're buying Google AdWords, particularly targeting, you think, older people.
Yeah, so the common theme, I guess, in both of these is that these were two people waiting for me to help them, and then in the interim tried to do it themselves. And obviously it's great that people try and figure stuff out and learn stuff, but
you can really get into trouble. Oh boy.
They were Googling. So one of
do not Google tech fixes. That's a risky thing to do because people buy those ads on those. Google should stop them if they're scammers, but the problem is sometimes it's not exactly a scammer. It's just somebody trying to make some money.
Exactly. And based on what I had listened to from your show, I had a sense of some of the red flags.
Yep.
Because I'm not like a full-on programmer IT guy, but I'm more in the SEO world. But what I realized was that I asked her twice. I said, this is my roommate, and she's retired. But I asked her twice, and I said, well, are you talking to Amazon? Because she needed Alexa help. And she said, yeah, I called them for Alexa help. And on the third time I checked and I looked, and what she had done, I looked in her search history, is search for Alexa help. And when I searched on her computer, because she's older, I got a different answer than I do on my computer.
Right.
Because they're targeting her specifically zip code, age, gender, whatever. And,
See, this is where your skill set as an SEO, search engine optimization guy, is actually very helpful because you understand how that works.
I almost missed it.
Yeah.
I almost didn't think to check both.
So when you buy Google or Facebook ads, you can get very targeted. And
exactly.
And you'll notice if you use an incognito, actually you can't really even do that, but if you log out of your Google account and do searches, you'll get different results than when you're logged in. And that's based, Google says, well, no, we customize the search results based on past history. But it also, they sell ads based on past history as well.
Yes, exactly.
So what was what did it say?
Well, I wish I had it in front of me. I've actually pulled off the road here to
I'm sorry. Yeah, I appreciate your patience. Yeah.
So I wish I had done this with my laptop in front of me, but basically the thing was, it was a legit looking phrase like supporthelptech.com or something like that, but there was one letter off.
Yeah.
Support was Sapont,
As soon as you see a misspelling of that kind, that's a scam. Get off of that site.
Yeah. And so that was one of the red flags.
Yep.
The other one was the use of gift cards. Anytime there's a gift card use, run.
That's a way of anonymizing the payment. If they took an actual credit card, then you could reverse the charge.
Exactly. So that was the first thing that really grabbed my red flag attention, was seeing that mouse move around on the screen.
Very good.
The third one, and this is a big one that was common to both the one I had with my friend, my roommate, and my grandparents, was that they remoted onto the machine. Oh, by the way, this was a referral from a legitimate internet provider from Cox. Went to a third party who they referred, who then, when remoting in, opened a text document, typed into the text document. This is a key thing. They type into a text document while remoting in the contact information of the third person in the chain, so that there's really no record in their own system audio thing. They type it into the text document and then have you call that number.
Oh, man. So that oh man, I'm impressed by this. But you saw these as red flags, and you're absolutely right, Michael. So remember, the scammer wants to cover his tracks. He doesn't want you to be able to figure out who it is, where you got the referral.
And it was from a legitimate company referral, so it was like, the guy.
Yeah, but it was a legitimate company to another company to another company.
Yes.
And it's kind of like telephone. The more down you go that rabbit hole, the more likely you're getting scammed.
A loss of moral fidelity, I guess you could say.
Yeah, whoa, that's a good word. I like that. I'm writing that down. Loss of moral fidelity. You're right. Yeah, through the generations, it's got a little bit scratchier each time.
Precisely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So so that was one of the key points I wrote down here. Was it was the opening of the text document, It was the SEO hacks that get you to call them, because the beginning of the tree of trust is where they get you.
Yep.
It's rule of confidence games going back to forever in history. Only they're doing it in tech. Once you think you're talking to someone trusted, they can get away with anything. And the difference in the two cases is, one, it showed up in Google, so she thought it was legit.
Yep.
But the other one was a handoff from Cox.
What was the damage? Do you know what they did?
200 and 500 respectively.
So it was about money, not so much putting stuff on their machine.
Well, we're purging. I purged the one machine when it happened 2 weeks ago to my roommate.
Good.
We're purging the other machine Monday for my grandparents.
Michael, they're lucky. Both of them are lucky that you care enough, and because it's a lot of work. And you're absolutely right.
If I'd only helped them sooner, they were waiting for me and they did on their own.
There's a loss of moral fidelity. Wow.
All right. I heard that Moral Fidelity is opening for Coldplay at Coachella.
I want to register that domain name, moralfidelity.com. That's good.
I better race to my next appointment and beat you to it.
Good band name. Hey, thank you. I really appreciate it, Michael. It's good for people to hear how these things happen.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you, Michael.
Help someone.
Yeah.
You got it.
Take care. So you understand why it was so easy for somebody to fall into, because they Googled, I want help with my Echo. And the thing is, when I do that, I get Amazon.com. But maybe you don't, depending on how you use the machine, maybe how you're... But, Google should not allow this kind of thing. The problem really is that both Google and Facebook sell ads programmatically, automatically. No human is involved. The ads are sold online. It's all done automatically. When you report this to Google, they'll eventually pull it down. But it's so slow that meanwhile the scammers get, lots of hits. So yeah, it's very challenging when you're searching for help to a technical issue. Be really careful and really suspect. And the minute you see a spelling error, a grammatical error, I would stop. I think that's absolutely a red flag. If they accept payment in any form besides a credit card, stop. Credit card has two benefits to you. One, in order for them to use the credit card, they have to identify themselves to the credit card company. So there's a paper trail leading to the scammer. And two, you can reverse the charge if you discover the scam. And both of those things scammers don't like. So that's why they don't use credit cards. They'll use other methods of payment, like gift cards, to get paid, because you can't stop it. It's done. Send me $100 in unmarked bills. That they might as well be saying that. The thing to worry about is it may not just be a money scam. Maybe they got some money out of you. And Michael knows this. That's why he is going to wipe their machine. They may also, once they get remote access, that's another thing. Be very careful. You give somebody physical access to your machine, whether it's in person or remotely over the internet using a remote access program, all bets are off. They can do stuff to your machine you don't know what they're doing, including put malware on there, remote access Trojans, all sorts of stuff. You may never even know it's there. So this is very good advice, very important to pay attention to. I think maybe people are getting smart enough so that if you get a call at random, hello, this is Windows calling. That's a bad start. Hello, this is Windows calling. You have a virus on your computer. We're seeing strange activity on our servers. If you get that call, just hang up. Don't engage. There's nothing you can do about it. I used to say, aren't you ashamed? What does your mother think about you scamming elderly people like this? They'll hang up on you at that point. Somebody told me, I think it's probably true. For all you know, their mother's the one who's paying them to do it. Mother's the boss. You don't know. A lot of times we're told these companies are actually real tech support during the day, and then at night they make a little extra on the side. If somebody calls you, hang up. Microsoft is not calling you at your house to help you. And be really careful even when you reach out about what you get. But unfortunately, we don't all have a Michael to help us. That's the fact of the matter. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. The Gizwiz coming up. The Tech Guy Podcast is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Are you ready to buy a home? Maybe you're ready to refi. The Fed's rate interest rate went up again. Means interest rates are going up. They said maybe 2 more times this year. Now would be a good time to lock in that low interest rate or buy a new home with Rocket Mortgage. Quicken Loans, #1 lender in the country. Great people. They've done a great job at making a kind of a technologically savvy company. And they realized there was one piece missing, and that was the loan approval process, getting that loan. Going to a bank, filling out an application, having to find bank statements and pay stubs from years gone by, going up to the attic and going through those boxes. That's no fun for anyone. And it takes a lot of time. When you find a house you like, it's important nowadays, we're really in a seller's market, to get in there and make a good, strong offer right off the top. Not say, I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks. The house will be gone by then. So here's what you do. Go right now. You could do it. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/techguy. It's an entirely online home approval process. You literally, you don't have to go anywhere. You could do it from your couch. You could do it from an open house even. Takes less than 10 minutes in most cases. You just go and you answer a couple of questions, things you already know, no research involved. And then because they have the relationships with all the financial institutions, they're Quicken Loans, they go out with your permission, get the information they need. They crunch the numbers, and based on income, assets, and credit, they're going to say, these are the loans you qualify for. You choose the down payment, you choose the term, you choose the rate, and you're done in minutes. So fast you could be at an open house and say before you leave, oh, by the way, we're approved, so we'd like to make an offer. But that's how you get the house you want. That's how you get the refi done before rates go up again. Quicken Loans, Rocket Mortgage. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. You get started at rocketmortgage.com/techguy. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states at MLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. rocketmortgage.com/techguy. And we thank Rocket Mortgage and Quicken Loans for making the Tech Guy podcast possible. Dick DeBartolo is Mad Magazine's maddest writer. And yes, I know you think he's sitting right across from me. I wish he were, but no, he's in Disneyland, his very own Mad Magazine East Coast headquarters. Can we call it that?
Yes, absolutely. I call it the unofficial East Coast office of Mad Magazine.
For 50 years, Dick DeBartolo has been writing those great movie parodies, ad parodies, and more at Mad Magazine. But in all that time, and all the money he's made, he's plowed it right into gadgets and gizmos. So we call him the Gizwiz when he joins us each week.
Perfect. So I have one gadget you know about. I'm going to do a gadget I love, a gadget that's really a piece of trash.
Okay.
And I think we both got them the same day. I love my Wise Cam pan.
Oh my God, this thing is amazing.
I can't believe it. You know, I did the podcast with Chad Johnson, so I sent him the share link to my Wise Cam, and while I'm talking about it, he's showing the whole studio.
Yeah.
Controlling it from Dallas, and when I first sent the link, I forgot about it, and I suddenly hear, "Hey, Dick," and I turn around and I go, and I forgot he's talking through my camera.
He can talk to you through the camera. It's the craziest thing ever. This is my studio, and I got to do the firmware upgrade. That's, by the way, one of the things we always tell people. There I am. See, hello.
I know, but in case people don't know, it's $30.
That's the thing that's amazing. There's our studio audience. They're waving. Look at that. Isn't that cool? And you pan and tilt. It tilts, and zooms, and you can control it remotely. But also, you can turn on the patrol feature, and it will automatically just look around for motion and alert you whenever there's motion. So it's a great security camera too.
Yeah, I just love it. It's just great.
Yeah.
Now the thing to avoid. I thought I was getting a real gadget when I bought Smart Swab.
Smart Swab? That doesn't sound good at all.
All right, this is a way to clean your ears.
It looks like, actually looks like an electric toothbrush.
Well, I thought it was
I wouldn't stick that in my ear.
Well, you know what? It's very good because it doesn't fit in your ear.
Oh,
all right.
Well, you know what? The teacher always said, never stick anything in your ear other than your elbow.
Yes. Well, you would get more wax out of your ear if you stuck your elbow in it than you do with this. And then I realized, I said to Dennis, "Does this fit in your ear?" He said, "No." And then I realized, so that's how they protect themselves from people injuring themselves, because on Amazon, 70% of the people gave it 1 star. I'm guessing because you can't give it 0 stars. This is just ridiculous. And I love that it says use 1 tip per ear. Do not use the same tip in both ears.
No, you don't want to infect one ear or the other. So wait a minute. Show me. Stick that in your ear.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second.
Let me see how this.
It goes partway in, but it doesn't go in enough to do anything.
Oh, well, that's safety. That's for safety.
That's for safety.
That's for your safety. You can't. Is it battery powered?
No, it's nothing. You could use a broom handle and save a lot of money.
How much are they charging?
On the TV ad, it's $20, but they send you 2 of them. But on Amazon,
well, see, that's good. See, it's a good deal because you get 2 for the price of 1.
Yeah, exactly.
1 for each ear.
Exactly. I paid $15 on Amazon, but it's also, I found that it's $10 on Amazon. But it's not worth $1.
No, that's terrible.
Yeah, it is really ridiculous.
So don't buy the smart swab if you've seen the ad for it. It looks like it might be bad. Looks like it might be like a roto-rooter for your ear.
You know what? I thought it was some kind of trick thing, and I was going to say, boy, this is going to be good. And then when I got it,
powered.
Yeah, and of course, in the ad, the guy, I think he's taking rocks out of his ear. You see this grim stuff coming out.
Yeah. Well, he probably put rocks in his ear before he used it.
Do you think they would ever do that kind of thing?
And who's this Dr. Shelley Jaquish when she's at home? They don't say a doctor of what, by the way.
That's very interesting.
But she's right. She says cotton swabs or other objects can push wax deeper into your ear, potentially injuring your eardrum. She doesn't recommend anything.
No.
She just says don't stick anything in your ear, basically.
No.
She could have gotten my kindergarten teacher for that. Holy cow. Wow.
I know. It's very funny. And in the visual ads, I swear, it seems like most people's ears are filled with peanut butter.
I don't even want to see it.
That's what
disgusting.
it looks. Yeah, I know.
Okay. All right.
But I thought, you know what? It would be. It's $10. Actually, I spent $20 because I bought 2.
You bought 2. Well, you can't buy 1 probably. Can you?
You know what? You can, but I always buy 2 of everything in case 1 doesn't work. I want to give the company the benefit of the doubt.
And what happens when they both don't work?
Then I say, this is a piece of junk.
So there you go. Don't buy this. You'd be dumb to buy the smart swab.
Yeah. Take the same $20, add $10 to it, and buy the Wisecam Pro.
But the good news is you can't hurt yourself with it.
No, that's the great thing. That's the great thing.
It's safe. It's not effective.
Exactly.
That's, by the way, why the FDA says safe and effective, not safe or effective.
Yeah, no, I think you and I should market elbow swab and just send tips that you put on your elbow, and
it's safe.
The effect would be the same.
It's completely safe. Mr. Dick DiBartolo, you'll find him at gizwiz.biz. That's his website. It is safe and effective, gizwiz.biz. You can find links to both the fabulous $30 Wisecam pan that we both love,
yes,
and to the $20 Smart Swab.
Yeah. Oh, and yes, and there's also a video there where I show you what the ear cleaner of the future will be.
Oh,
so you might get a kick out of that too.
You can also play the What the Heck Is It game there, a chance to win an autographed copy of Mad Magazine by identifying a strange, unknown device of some kind. I bet you the Smart Swab makes it into the What the Heck Is It contest in a couple of years. Once the excitement has died down.
I think died down the day after the interview.
Thank you, Dickie D.
Okay, buddy. I'll see you next week.
Catch his great podcast too at gizwiz.biz. Well, I think we're out of time. I hate to say it, but I'll be back again next time. I hope you will too. Thanks so much to our musical director, Michael Cozio, who's been doing a great job spinning the discs. Do you use discs, Michael? You do, like vinyl albums, right? 2 turntables. Yeah, totally into it. You should see him there. He's got one headphone on and one headphone off. He's our DJ. Also to Kim Schaffer for working so hard today, answering the phones, bringing all our great callers to us. Thank you, Kim. Don't forget the website, techguylabs.com. Everything we talk about on the show, including the Smart Swab ear cleaner, is listed on the website, techguylabs.com. It's free, no sign up, but we put it all up there so you don't have to remember anything. You can even leave your comments and suggestions, and I appreciate that. techguylabs.com. I'll be back next time. I hope you will too. In the meantime, be careful whose calls you answer and what websites you visit, and take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.